So there's this guy in my fantasy league who's the most trade-happy person I've ever seen. He's already made 2 trades. This second one just happened and it's about to be processed in a few days. He tried to trade with me, but listen to this trade that he proposed.
Okay.
Give up Cordell Patterson, basically the 3rd running back right now, for the Falcons, and then Allen Robinson just for Deontay Johnson. I think the other guy's getting a steal because Allen Robinson's value is only going up with Justin Fields being the go-to starter, and then Cordell Patterson's on a hot streak of being like the 3rd best running back in the game, fantasy-wise. All that for a receiver with a quarterback who had elbow surgery in 2019, who's also on the bad side of 40.
Yeah.
I think that's the dumbest trade ever. But my good friend's getting the good part of that, so I'm letting it happen.
Wait, who was the receiver he's getting in return?
Allen Robinson. Oh, in return, Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. I don't trust any Steelers players besides Najee Harris. And even then, I wouldn't trade for him. Any one of Deontay Johnson, Claypool, or Juju could pop off on any night. The other 2 would just have a stinker.
Yeah.
I was told that he originally proposed that trade for Justin Jefferson. Then he said no, and then he's like, okay, well, then give me Deontay Johnson. Like, dude, how to fall off? Trade request right there.
Yeah, no, that's a stupid trade.
It's very stupid, but he's trade happy, so it's okay. Some of his trades need to blow up in his face. He tried to take Derrick Henry from me for just Chris Carson and Tyler Lockett. Great players, but Chris Carson's injured. Gets injured all the time.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Lockett either goes off for 30 or puts up 5.
Right.
No in between. And that week, Derrick Henry put up 44 against, I forget who, but 44 points is 44 points.
Yeah.
He's the #1 running back. I checked his margin, or the amount of points that he scored this season. He's beating the second guy by 20. So why would I ever trade him for anything right now?
You wouldn't.
We got the first thing you got coming up, by the way.
All right.
All right. I'm going to bump you in about 30 seconds. Do you need something?
Ogeron cuts.
Yes.
Did Musso have any in yesterday's folder from when Ogeron was on off the bench Tuesday morning?
Are you asking me if he has?
Oh, yeah, I'm asking you if Musso had any in yesterday's folder.
Let me check. I'm going to have to bump you in soon, though.
Yeah, no.
October 5th. Yes, he has 4.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Okay. He has feels good about locker room. Why we're check with me's back. What does Kiner need to do to earn more touches? Wire or Bradford at LT?
Okay. All right. We'll get to him.
Okay.
6:06 to Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake Barty producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are off and running on this busy Wednesday morning. We got a lot of ground to cover today, and we are like all over the place. Attorney Franz Borghardt's going to be by for Legally Served in about half an hour from right now. Brennan Matherne with the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. He's their public information officer. We checked in with him regularly during Hurricane Ida. It's been a minute since we've checked in with Brennan, and I'd like an update on how things are going down there. Where are they at when it comes to, let's just say, a return to normalcy? I mean, nobody's there yet, but how close are they getting? Schools are back in. I mean, it's that weird post-hurricane phase right now. We'll talk with Brennan in the 7 o'clock hour at 7:15. Also in the 7 o'clock hour, we're expected to get caught up with Congressman Garrett Graves, D.C. Current. We bring it to you every Wednesday unless we have to reschedule. And hopefully catching up with Congressman Graves today to talk about, among other things, raising the debt ceiling and the infrastructure package. Both of those will be coming your way at 7:35. In the 8 o'clock hour, hey, what really happened in Wuhan? To answer that question, we're going to talk to the author of the book, What Really Happened in Wuhan. Sharri Markson wrote the book, What Really Happened in Wuhan, and will join us at 8:20. Then at 8:35, don't know if you saw the headline at WBRZ or not, but we have surpassed a record when it comes to domestic violence homicides in Baton Rouge for the year. In fact, I've got that headline right here. Baton Rouge breaks record for domestic violence murders. East Baton Rouge Parish has broken another record, and it's not a good one. The parish surpassed last year's all-time record high for domestic violence murders. There's growing worry that the number will only increase with nearly 3 months of the year to go. Well, of course it's going to increase. The number of murders in a year doesn't decrease within that same year. So far this year, East Baton Rouge has seen 25 domestic violence murders. Last year's record was 19 for the entire year. Well, let's talk domestic violence. Let's talk about what's being done to prosecute those who are guilty of it. Let's talk about what's being done to help those left in its wake. Every month we check in with Hiller Moore's office, and today we'll have Melanie Fields from the prosecution division and Renee Kraft from the Capital Area Family Justice Center, both at 8:35 to talk about this as we dive into where we are at in Baton Rouge with domestic violence. And yeah, it's everything homicide-wise has been a scary scenario this year. Things cooled off a good bit in August and September. I mean, not down to zero, not down to get us off of a record-breaking pace, but definitely less than it was earlier in the year when it comes to homicides. And we are still on that pace to break, well, all the homicide records, not just domestic violence, but across the board. So that's where we're going to be for the rest of the show today. Plus, we'll have the latest, like I said, on Hurricane Ida recovery, which actually, you know what? We can start right there. Because where are we at right now with Hurricane Ida recovery? FEMA has been updating everybody regularly, and by that I mean daily, when it comes to the recovery efforts from their end. And as of yesterday, if you're curious, FEMA had approved over 500,000 applications for disaster assistance. In fact, 510,000 applications for disaster assistance have been approved already, totaling $731 million. Hurricane Ida survivors in all 25 Louisiana parishes eligible for individual assistance under the Blue Roof program are up and running as well. They don't have numbers on those, but FEMA is letting us know that as of day before yesterday, temporary roofs have been installed in all of the 25 parishes where they are eligible to be installed right now. And one more from FEMA before we close the book on, because we got to sports at our next segment. One more from FEMA real quick. They are reminding everybody on a regular basis about being on the lookout for fraud. They're reminding everyone on a regular basis about survivors of Hurricane Ida should be aware of con artists and criminals trying to take advantage of them, posing as phony property inspectors or phony building contractors. Thieves also may try to steal money or your personal information through fraud by directing you to apply on their website. You can report scams and fraud, identity theft, and the like at FEMA's hotline. That hotline, 866-720-5721. 866-720-5721. Or, of course, it's all on FEMA's website as well. All right, we are due up for a break. When we come back, it's time to talk sports. Ed Ogeron was on Off the Bench yesterday, as he is every Tuesday. We will hear some audio from that next on Talk 107.3. Before we get you to that break, though, got to tell you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. I know it's a little bit too early to start thinking about a cheeseburger for lunch, but I still want to get you thinking about a cheeseburger for lunch. The wealth of burgers they've got over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes is amazing. Just the variety that you could choose from. Whether it be the Big Dill, which is the burger of the month right now, fried dill pickle chips on the burger. The MDC, the Mooyah Double Cheeseburger, MDC. Cheddar Bacon Burger, Mushroom Swiss Burger, the A1 Cheeseburger. By the way, anytime you hear one of these burgers with cheddar cheese on it, it's Tillamook cheddar cheese. A commitment to top quality ingredients is what they do at Mooyah. Whether it be the Tillamook cheddar cheese, whether that be freshly cut vegetables every day, freshly baked buns, potato buns, or the certified Angus beef. Or, if you're getting away from the certified Angus beef, I actually tried their black bean burger. I know, what was I thinking? But it was good. Can't go wrong with any of the burgers they've got on their menu. Best case scenario, the hamburger dog, the A-Wonderful, the Well-Dunion. But in the off chance that you can't find the burger that's just right for you, build your own. Pair it with some fries and a milkshake, and you're good to go. At both locations of Mooyah. Segan, just north of Industrialplex, or Bluebonnet at Highland for Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Load up all four of those cuts. I gotta run down all four. All right, what'd you say the cuts were?
Feels good about locker room. Why we're check with knees back.
Okay.
Just kind of need to do to earn more touches. Wire or Bradford at outside.
See an accident reported at WBRC Traffic on Twitter. Report is brought to you by Shawbells, where you can get free tire repairs on all household cars.
Yep.
Just new tires. It's all part of the Charlie's Dozen.
All right, I'm not going to do the offensive line one. We'll do the first three, provided we have time for all three.
No LT.
Huh?
No LT. No wire or Bradford at LT.
Yeah.
On Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge.
.616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Sports time. So every Tuesday, LSU's head football coach Ed Ogeron joins the guys over on Off the Bench. Stops in with T-Bob and Jake. And so we'd like to hear what he has to say. I mean, having that kind of access to the head coach is always a good thing. One of the first questions that I would have been throwing at the coach is, you go through that loss last weekend, and, I mean, communication gaps on the field, you can't run the football, you give up a ton of yardage in the second half, Bo Nix scrambling everywhere. Is there blame going around? Is there finger-pointing going around? What's the vibe in the locker room?
Yesterday we had one of our best practices. Guys like Devon Clark have been tremendous leaders for us. On defense, Ali Gay stepping up. We got Sony Fanu is back. On offense, Keyshawn Butte has been a great leader for us. We still got a bunch of guys that are fired up, ready to play some ball. A lot of guys that came back to play some good ball, some guys that are hungry. So I feel good about the locker room.
Communication gaps on the field were a big problem on Saturday. Coming out of a timeout without plays, ready to roll. The check with me's appeared to be back. Coach Orgeron addressed why the check with me's are back as well.
Yeah, I just think that we just went back to trying a little bit too much. We had a couple of ideas that wanted to try, and just didn't work out. And we are better off when we go warm. We're better off when we call it and run it. And we went back to trying some things and maybe doing a little bit too much, and obviously it got to us.
Yeah, you got to just call the play and roll with it. You got another play on the next play, but call the play and roll with it. Second guessing yourself is never going to be the answer. Just what's the old adage? Scared money don't pay. Run with it, man. It's like Jake tinkering with his fantasy roster. You got to stop tinkering, man. Just set your lineup and roll.
Sorry, man. I got to get the right lineup.
No,
man.
that's what I'm saying. You're making the same mistake you're doing the check with me's with your fantasy roster. Set it, move on. One more. The only bright spot in the run game has been Corey Kiner, and bright is a very exaggerated use of the word. But what's it going to take to get him more touches? He had 5 carries last week for 22 yards, which is basically more than the team netted. What's it going to take to get the ball in Kiner's hands more often?
Just keep on doing what he's doing. And we talked about it, we are going to give him and Armani more consistent touches. And those guys are moving up on the depth chart fast.
All right. Ed Orgeron Show tonight at 7 o'clock, followed by the Tiger Zone. You will hear both of those on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Then, of course, LSU taking on Kentucky this weekend at Kentucky, which it's just such a weird spot to be in. LSU can actually play a spoiler this week. Kentucky's 5-0. They beat Florida last week. They play at Georgia next week. When was the last time LSU was the spoiler game and not the one looking to avoid being spoiled? Here's the Fox Business Report.
So much deliberation, man. My running back room is
Do what?
my running back room is very top heavy right now.
That's a good problem.
It's a good problem for sure, but my wide receiver room is depressed. And nobody picked up Damien Harris because David Montgomery got injured for like 4 weeks. And they're going up against the Raiders. Now Gaskin is terrible. And not him as a player, but no one on that Miami offense can be trusted.
Yeah.
So someone dropped Damien Harris from the Patriots. I was going to pick him up, but then I realized Damian Williams is up. Instead of waivers, I can just add him immediately. And that's a good 4 weeks in the flex right there. Because he played really good on limited touches against the Lions last week.
Morning, Renee. Morning, Eric. Morning, Tiffany. Morning, Clint. What's happening, y'all? Morning to everybody else who's in there that I'm not seeing comments so far. What does "we doing an invisible show" mean? Oh, was that when I ran downstairs? Tiffy says, "Uh-oh, what's with the suit?" I got to introduce the guests at the Rotary Club today. So that's what I'll be doing. Tell you who's repping a nice jacket today is Franz. My guys at Haspel today. That's never a bad thing.
Enter Franz Borghardt.
See, I'm not in Haspel today, but this jacket, Dirty Dillard's, right before it shut down.
Dirty Dillards.
The Dirty Dillards, right before they bulldoze that bad boy.
I do like a good bargain, man.
Dude, yeah. I'm like, you see the price tag on it from what it was originally listed as, and then you like put it on the counter, and they're like, that'd be $8.
Did you negotiate? You were like, you take 6?
That's it. Like it's a garage sale.
Yeah.
Got him down to 6, and then I paid with 100. Be a man.
Who's the guest today at Rotary? You're introducing them.
No. I'm introducing the guests of, like, you know, it'd be like Tiffany Summers, a guest of Franz Borghardt. That's what I'm doing. I do that whole list.
Speaking of guests, Coach Mulkey is going to be on the Go Roo show in October.
Nice.
I was surprised that she agreed to do that.
Well, so this week's Go Roosh has the soccer coaches.
Right, you noticing a little sports movement, a little female sports movement?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I heard Coach Mulkey talk at the Rotary meeting, circling back to Rotary, and I thought she did an amazing job, and I thought, hey, the listeners deserve that experience on the radio. Bucket of money.
Yeah. She was good at Rotary. She was good at the SJA Dads Club. Her prepared speech was 3.5 minutes. And then she just opened it up for an hour's worth of questions.
I like it.
You got LRN cuts here? Yeah. Yes. What's my next live read? Or have I not had one yet? Okay. All right, Dan. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Attorney Franz Borghardt's going to be up in just a little bit. There's a convicted serial killer. What, from was it Ascension Parish? Where he was at? Anyway, they're getting a new look at DNA, fingerprint evidence. I want to talk about basically retrying trials. I mean, we've seen it with other things from the Supreme Court, and it looks like we're kind of seeing it here as well. Franz will be by in just a little bit. Right now, though, and you're going to hear more about this in our news at the bottom of the hour, we got a series of medical stories all jammed into one segment. Starting off with AstraZeneca is making a move, not just with the COVID vaccines, although I don't think you get the AstraZeneca vaccine in America. It's everywhere else around the world. But they're getting emergency use authorization from the FDA for an antibody treatment. A first-of-its-kind antibody treatment uses a preventative from the virus. Assistant Dean for Translational Science at LSU Health New Orleans, Dr. Lucio Mele, says he's got data on the new treatment.
So what's special about this cocktail is that these antibodies should last 6 to 12 months.
So basically you're taking antibodies before you're even sick. He says the monoclonal medication will not be marketed as a substitute for the vaccines, but more of an ancillary for those who are unable to be vaccinated because they have cancer or a compromised immune system.
That make them more susceptible to infection or less likely to develop strong immunity in response to the vaccine.
Which is good. It fills in a lot of gaps, right? There are those who can line up and get vaccinated. There's those who don't want to get vaccinated. And then there's those who would like to but aren't, like, medically able to. This would help them out. Now, it's a laboratory-made version of the virus-blocking antibodies, So if you have hesitancy about a vaccine made in the lab, I don't know why you wouldn't have hesitancy about antibodies made in the lab. Nonetheless, they do help fight off infections. The doc says so far it's been shown to be long-lasting and will reduce the number of injections one would need overall.
One injection could last potentially up to a year. So it's a very useful addition to our arsenal in response to SARS-CoV-2.
The FDA, by the way, has already authorized 3 other antibody drugs, including 2 that could be given after COVID exposure. AstraZeneca injection is meant to be given as a preventative for COVID. So, 2 other health-related or medical-related announcements. First of all, Baton Rouge General is out in front with they're among the first, I should say, in the U.S. to use an innovative robotic technology for lung cancer diagnosis. Saw this press release yesterday. Baton Rouge General announcing a new innovation that holds promise to fight lung cancer. Used to view the inside of the lungs and obtain a tissue sample for biopsy. It's called the Monarch platform, which can mean a more accurate diagnosis of small and hard-to-reach lung nodules. Baton Rouge General among the first to roll this one out. Mary Bird Perkins had a similar announcement recently. I don't believe it was about lung cancer, though, but just in diagnosing and treating or diagnosing and removing cancer in hard-to-reach places. This technology, the Monarch technology, Monarch platform, integrates the latest advancements in robotics, software, data science, and endoscopy, which tiny cameras. The platform uses a familiar controller-like interface that physicians use to navigate the flexible robotic endoscope to find or get to hard-to-reach areas of the lung with improved vision and control throughout the entire procedure. So, Baton Rouge General not falling to the wayside with all the cancer treatment and fighting announcements. Side note, Our Lady of the Lake is going to be on with us tomorrow to talk about their new cancer center. We had that announcement yesterday. Well, I guess the press conference was on Monday, but we talked about it yesterday. Our Lady of the Lake, following the announcement of Mary Bird Perkins, is moving on to team up with One Oncology out of Nashville. Our Lady of the Lake is building their own structure, their own building, their own cancer center. They'll be on with us to talk about it tomorrow morning. One more. Got a minute and a half, yeah. One more, and that's coming from Premier Health. They're expanding their headquarters right here in Baton Rouge. Made the announcement yesterday with the governor and a number of other stakeholders, Premier Health Consultants. Their CEO announced yesterday the company's expanding their Baton Rouge headquarters. They're going to make a $1.5 million capital investment in Baton Rouge facilities, expanding administrative staffs to support more than 85 urgent care clinics they operate across 10 states, including 45 locations right here in Louisiana. This, by the way, is going to mean 50 new direct jobs right here in Baton Rouge with an annual salary of around $50,000 plus bennies. Economic Development, Louisiana's Economic Development Department estimates it'll also result in 57 new indirect jobs. So if you're doing that math, that's 107. 50 plus 57 is 107. Did my research. All right, we're going to break here for news, traffic, weather. When we come back from that break, Attorney Franz Borghardt is going to be in for Legally Served. Going to be talking a little bit about a serial killer. Also, though, on the back half of Legally Served, we're going to talk about how you can help out in the fight against breast cancer. Franz needs a little bit of help. So, with fundraising, not just in general, with fundraising. Say it again, your mic wasn't on.
I need help with everything.
We're going to start with the fundraising, though. Real Men Wearing Pink. That's coming up in just a little bit. Right now, though, let's check CBS News before getting our own local news, traffic, and weather. On Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. Like what? That's fine. Well, Clinton asked a good question. Aren't the antibodies going to die with the chemo treatments? That's a good question.
I got my booster yesterday. Oh, yeah? I'm boosted. How do you feel? I took 5. My arm is knotted up, but
A lot of moving parts just then.
And how much more protected are you from COVID because of the booster?
I don't know.
You've already been vaccinated.
I've already had the illness. I've been vaccinated. Now I've been boosted.
So do you feel like you got like a mushroom in
Probably
Mario?
due for another booster by now.
You got jokes, huh?
Dude,
You
it's
got
going to get
jokes.
out of hand. I'm telling you, it's going to get out of hand.
The latest patch. Just get an update every couple of years.
So when we talk about Facebook, can we start playing the Imperial March?
I can pull that up.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'll get the one where Sidious comes in. It's way more dramatic.
Are we really surprised that Facebook is evil?
No.
Really?
I'm not.
Not really. I
I'm
mean,
growing up in this era. All this social media.
you mean they're out
is
to make
evil.
money? They're out for their own interests?
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
Hey, he's talking about the Monarch platform. The Monarch! Guess a Venture Brothers reference would be a little bit too vague.
A what now?
I'm familiar
Venture
with it.
Brothers?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
I'm not.
So then you know just how spot on accurate that impression was. That's right, Dr. Girlfriend. Yeah, I mean, look,
Is it still a thing, or is it?
I don't know. I stopped watching after the Orb. After the, like, it just, they had so much potential to go down so many different avenues, and they literally dropped the ball.
So it's a spoof on Johnny Quest and candidly cartoons from that era.
Okay.
So
It's super good.
yeah. Byron points out a very good point. If he gets a new trial, it goes from serial killer to alleged serial killer.
No. No,
gonna-
you're still a serial killer.
Like R. Kelly. Yeah, he
Right.
did that.
Yeah. You still did it. We just need to. Hey, T-Bob. We just need to reconfirm that you did it.
Unless the DNA exonerates him. I mean, that's problematic, right? There's no forensic evidence, a possible allegation of false evidence, and then or false confession, and then there's evidence that seems to indicate that there was someone else's DNA. Yeah, that's not
You're
problematic.
innocent until proven guilty.
Right. Because
And
nobody
so, but now you
nobody ever falsely confesses. I mean, we certainly don't have a phrase "false confession" because people ever falsely confess.
But Thorns is the next thing you got.
Can you feel him ramping up into defense mode right here? Can you feel the criminal defense attorney just bubbling to the top?
I can play prosecutor.
No, you can't.
I was a great prosecutor. I could be a prosecutor tomorrow, man. I did it for the nookie. Where is the Coach O show? Where do they record the Coach O show?
TJ Ribs, I think.
At least you get some ribs.
I'm in a tiny little studio.
Like afterwards? Before?
No, I'm not. I'm nowhere near that place. I'm on LSU's
Oh,
campus.
you don't get to eat?
No.
Well, that's kind of jacked up.
Bees with a bees. I get TJ Ribs on Saturdays. Well, Saturdays of home games. In fact, last week I thought I wasn't going to get to eat because the rain was rolling in. Like, I have this little window of before the pregame show starts, and I thought the rain wasn't going to let up, and then it did at just the right time. So I got to get my pork belly burnt ends.
Free
Actually
food
had a
is
couple
best
boudin
food.
balls, which is not good for the diet, but nonetheless, so good.
Hey, man. Free food is best food.
Mm-hmm. Clint says, look at these dapper dons right here. Yep.
I am wearing my real men wear pink tie.
Nice.
I like your tie.
I got to wear pink every single day this month.
Yeah, but you're the only guy that can look at the calendar of October and say,
No biggie.
what in my closet do I need to cut that isn't going to make it in these 31 days?
I do have a ridiculous. Nah.
Here's the test. Did you have to do any shopping for more pink?
No. Sonny Crockett thinks he has too much pink.
Good for you.
I may need to get some pink suits altered so that I can wear them, but
Fair. But you got the arsenal.
so I've got a garden party I got to go to in about a week or two, and it's seersucker allowable, and I'm going to be wearing the LSU purple and gold.
Oh, the Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow seersucker.
Nice.
I need to wear that.
You said in a week or two.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's,
not pink.
well, I'll have a pink tie on. I have a purple tie with pink flowers on it. Of course. I mean, come on, dude.
He did.
I'm a big 80s Prince fan. This is an underappreciated song.
I didn't know who you were when you walked in, but then everything bumped on
I celebrate Prince's entire catalog.
Do what?
I celebrate Prince's entire catalog.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is time for Legally Served. Yes, it is time to welcome in attorney Franz Borghardt. What's going on, man?
Good morning, fellas. Good morning, Talk 107.3. How's it going?
Going very, very well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Glad you're in this morning.
Outstanding jacket blazer. You
What?
have on
Thank
right now.
you so much. And to you, rocking the Haspel today.
I'm just trying to be
I
more
feel like I'm
you.
lagging because I'm not rocking Haspel today.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's one of my few suits that fits.
That's,
so,
well, that's a whole other story.
yeah.
I mean, we'll get around to that later.
Yeah.
We'll get around to that later.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to get around to later because you need some help in the Real Men Wear Pink,
I need lots of help.
which means come Friday, I'm going to have to do this all over again because so does Haggai.
Right.
Yeah.
He really needs some help.
Does he?
He's a great guy. Just really needs some help.
With the fundraising.
The fundraising.
Yeah,
I
with
mean,
the fundraising.
I
Let's
mean,
be
rest
very
of life,
clear.
he seems like he's got it. It's got it.
Oh no, he's got his you know what together, just with the fundraising. All right, but we do have legal matters to tend to first. So,
Okay.
the story from the Advocate: a baseball bat that was the murder weapon in the brutal 1996 slaying of Ascension Parish businessman Victor Rossi has been turned over to experts working on behalf of convicted River Parish serial killer Daniel Blank, along with other evidence collected from murder scenes in the mid-'90s. Defense attorneys representing Blank want experts to do new DNA testing on the bat, cigarette butts, and fingernail scrapings, and review a number of fingerprints. They want to see if that evidence can be linked to other suspects.
Correct. What's the problem? If there's DNA out there that could exonerate this guy and get the real guy, or that could confirm that this guy actually is the killer, wouldn't we want to know that before we put him to death?
So would this exonerate him or just add to the pool?
I don't know. I don't know what the evidence is going to reflect. But again, before we put someone to death, which to quote Tupac, there ain't no coming back from that, right? Death
Well,
is, I don't know if that's a Tupac. I just said Tupac.
Yeah, which he'd be a bad one to quote for that,
Right.
especially.
Too soon.
A string of high-profile murders and other crimes at Ascension, St. James, and St. John parishes prompted law enforcement officials to create a task force to investigate the unsolved murders, attempted murders, and robberies and see if they were connected. Investigators settled on Blank after his confession to all the crimes during a 12-hour interrogation in Texas in late 1997. Where
12 hours of interrogation and a confession that may be false.
Mm-hmm.
12
So-
hours. 12 hours.
And?
It's a long time to be interrogated.
Well, I mean, he bailed after the murders and moved to Texas to start a car repair business, which Texas didn't have any of those. So he was really breaking new ground here. He wasn't running from anything. He was breaking new ground to bring car repair
Wait,
to the state of Texas.
Did he pretend to be a woman while in Texas?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't follow him.
Because that was what our other guy, the HBO special guy.
The Jinx.
The Jinx.
Yeah.
That's what he did. When he fled, he went full-on woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know. Look, I'm not saying that he's not guilty. I'm not saying that he's not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm just suggesting that if there's possible forensic evidence that may confirm that, or there's possible forensic evidence may say, hey, look, this guy's been screaming that it was a false confession, and maybe it is. I'd kind of like to know that before we put a needle in his arm.
So I don't
Gas him.
have a whole lot on his trial because it happened so long ago.
Right, which may be part of the problem.
Right.
To be fair, I mean, that may be part of the problem is this is not the first instance where somebody wanted DNA testing after a trial, right? And we know that we do know that occasionally individuals are exonerated based on DNA evidence, right? We do know that there is such a thing as false confession. I'm not saying this guy didn't falsely confess or did falsely confess. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying he's saying he falsely confessed after 12 hours of interrogation. He's saying he wants this DNA and other forensic evidence tested. Why not? What's the problem?
So, is there no problem with timeline for you?
Once again, if you want to live by the sword and put people to death, I call me crazy, but I want all those boxes checked before you do that. You know, look, he may get put to death. This may be a dead end for him, and you know what?
Pun intended.
He's running out of escape hatches. However, call me a bleeding heart. If you want to put someone to death, I think you should be very thorough in your analysis of the evidence.
A succession of appellate attorneys for blank have unsuccessfully for years argued that his confession was coerced by an aggressive and leading FBI agent and other interrogators and obtained from a man with a diminished mental capacity who was susceptible to suggestion.
There you go.
No. It doesn't matter that they've argued it. It matters that they've been unsuccessful for this long.
So why did a federal court judge in our I guess jurisdiction, the Middle District, what was his reasoning for saying, you know what, we should test this?
Okay, but what you're arguing right now is to forget what all the other people who have shot down this argument have said. Basically, your argument is the same as the people that said I did my own research when not wanting vaccines. It's like, I don't care what all the other doctors say. I found this one on YouTube who tells me it's bad.
So all the other politically elected judges shot down this argument, and one appointed federal judge
who was appointed by a politically elected official as well.
Right, but he doesn't have. Let's be honest, though. Federal judges do not have the same kind of political obligations to get reelected than an elected judge does. Brian Jackson is judge for life.
Right.
He's judge for life.
But he's appointed by somebody who was elected.
Correct. However, there is a big distinction there. Political officials do things sometimes with an air towards wanting to get reelected. It happens.
Right.
So
they're going to appoint somebody who's got their ear.
Yeah, but we've seen that doesn't really work with the Supreme Court either, right? I mean, anyways, I'm just saying.
Look, if you claim there's something nefarious by somebody who's elected, then why wouldn't there be something nefarious?
I'm uncomfortable with getting this stuff tested for DNA.
Okay, I'm not uncomfortable with it. I just want to walk down the path.
Okay.
Now, I want to walk down this path as well when it comes to DNA evidence. As a criminal defense attorney, I'm sure you've dabbled in this a little bit in the past. Okay.
Knee deep.
Yeah. When it comes to DNA evidence, if I want to look at something that's 25 years old, 96 is 25 years ago.
Was that low? Can we have a moment of silence?
Class of 95 right here.
97.
Yeah. So you got 25 coming up next year.
I know. Go Bears.
Anyway, 25-year-old DNA evidence, does it change anything, the age of the DNA? Does DNA age, does it deteriorate? Is there anything that can make it more is there anything corruptible about it at this point?
Well, that would be certainly an argument for the state of Louisiana. If in fact DNA, it's about being preserved. Is it preserved? Is it intact? Can you get a conclusive evidence result or test result from it? You don't know sometimes until you test it.
Right.
Now, look, just because you have modern, like DNA from yesterday, doesn't mean you always get a conclusive result. And then it's important to note that DNA evidence is strictly what we call circumstantial evidence. So, okay, this cell phone right here that I'm now touching, your cell phone, people listening on the radio can't see this. I touched your cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Your cell phone goes missing. They find your cell phone later, and my DNA is on the cell phone in part because I touched it. Does it also mean that I stole the cell phone? Well, it's circumstantial. It means that I touched it at some point, that I had tactile contact with it at some point. And we also know the DNA is transferable.
Let's pause right there and come back to this. We got to take a break. We're going to check traffic. We're going to check your money now. then Legally Served continues right here on Talk 107.3 FM. But what you're setting up for, Franz, is the argument that even if it is his DNA, they're still going to say he didn't do it. Because that's circumstantial at that point. So aren't we going in a big circle? What's the point of doing this if it... Oh, you did... It was his DNA. Doesn't matter.
The problem is if you find amounts of someone else's DNA...
Oh, you're saying the other way around. Even if you find somebody else's DNA...
Well, I mean, you have an argument. Again, you have that would be an evidence that would have been presented as a defense at trial, right?
Right.
I mean, think... I know it's difficult for you. Think like a defense attorney for a minute.
I'm always thinking like a defense attorney.
What would the argument be? What would the argument be if you found someone else's DNA?
If I'm the defense attorney and I find somebody else, anybody else's
I robbed
DNA,
the
if I
store.
find a dog's DNA.
I robbed the store.
Right. I shot the clerk.
I shot the clerk.
I shot the clerk. Yeah, there's something else in the... No, if I'm the defense attorney, I'm starting off with the original trial had to be moved out of parish because of this mob that wants him guilty before he's proven guilty.
This could go nowhere. If there's someone else's DNA, look, we don't tend to believe that people confess to stuff they didn't do, but we know that it happens. I'll say that again. We know that it happens, but we don't tend to. There's psychological studies that support that we will confess to doing stuff we didn't do under the right pressure. Under the right pressure, a piece of coal will become a diamond. Franz Borghardt.
So I run into a couple of different things with this. One of which is a succession of appellate attorneys for blank have unsuccessfully argued for years that his confession was coerced by an aggressive and leading FBI agent and other interrogators and obtained from a man with a diminished mental capacity who was susceptible to suggestion.
Do the weak-minded confess to stuff they didn't do more easily than the strong-minded?
He's also an entrepreneur who decided to set up business in another state and was successful in doing so.
Whoa.
You're going to tell me
Did he set up Facebook? What did he do? Car repair. And I'm not indicting.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not indicting.
Yeah, you are.
I'm saying fixing cars is not advanced calculus. So to say that you can't be weak. Look.
Have you looked under the hood of your car?
You know.
Yeah.
It just magically all works.
I know.
The car fairies just make it all work. And by the way, car fairies was not a derogatory term on the LGBTQ community.
Wow.
Fairies.
Nobody was making. You're just digging a hole now.
I live with a shovel.
So, it's not about what type of business. It's about the fact that he moved to a different state to set up a business.
Maybe the Texas market for car repair is better than Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or
that's what I'm saying, man. I cannot get my phone to stay on. Yeah. It shouldn't go to sleep at all, though, if YouTube's open. Oh, Galen asked the exact same question I did. Can the degradation of the DNA evidence over the years provide reasonable doubt now?
Well, here's the problem. The state would have you believe that you can amplify. To test it, you have to amplify genetic material. I'm oversimplifying it, but you have to amplify it to get test results. If you can amplify it, you would have to find non-degraded DNA and amplify it, or it's arguable that you might be able to amplify DNA that has degraded over time. But remember, we've had cold cases from decades old that they've tested DNA and exonerated people.
Yeah.
Only certain biological materials, like semen, have a half-life or shelf life to them. And look, I am not a DNA expert, but I've tried a lot of cases that
yes,
where I had to hire experts or I had to suffer through my clients getting convicted because they had overwhelming DNA evidence. Byron, if you're listening,
He is.
you owe me lunch. Actually, I don't know that he owes me lunch. I just want to have lunch with him.
.652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Continuing right along with Legally Served. Attorney Franz Borghardt, good to go for another few minutes before we get a bail on the day. Franz, as we were going into break, you were talking about DNA evidence, and you touched my phone, and you said if my phone shows up found in a swamp or something, and your DNA evidence is now connected to it.
Did I throw the phone into the swamp?
So where you're going here is going to lead into a circle, though.
Right.
Because if I'm the defense attorney, am I going to re-argue the trial? And okay, do I want to lean on the DNA evidence, or do I want to be dismissive of the DNA evidence?
Folks tend to believe, jurors tend to believe, that if my DNA is on the phone, I threw the phone into the swamp.
Right.
That's what they believe.
Yes.
I'm simply giving you the fact that it's circumstantial evidence.
Yes.
I call it circumstantial evidence, but it's evidence that he would have been entitled to present at trial. Right? And look, he has a right to mount a defense.
Timeline-wise, when did DNA evidence start regularly being admitted into trial? Because, I mean, we're talking about, like, this trial was in 99, so...
Well, so part of the problem is it was something we started doing later. I want to say 70s.
Okay.
I want to say 70s, but don't hold me to that. I mean, that's a Google search. But then our methods of doing DNA testing have improved over time. We can do genealogical DNA testing to find out relatives of DNA samples, which we've done. California's done that. And they call it familial DNA testing. So I'm just suggesting to you that I get the frustration of this guy's been convicted, he confessed. You know, why aren't we just putting, you know, a nail in the coffin, put him to death, and move on? I'm suggesting to you, though, this is evidence that we are expected to present at trial if we have it. If someone else's DNA is found all over the place, I would use that as a defense. It goes to identity. It goes to who committed the crime. Now, the state has the right to counter that by saying nobody confessed.
Right.
Now, false confessions have been overturned before based on DNA exoneration.
Okay, so if you come back and this guy's DNA was there,
circle.
It is a vicious circle because it's going to prove to this being just an exercise of futility. If his DNA is there, but so is somebody else's, the defense is going to argue that it doesn't matter that his DNA was there; it was still a false confession because look at the other person whose DNA is there.
Right.
And then the flip side of that is if his DNA
you don't want this
isn't
guy
there,
to get a new trial. Right?
Do what?
You don't want this guy to get a new trial. You want closure, right?
I do want closure.
Right. We should just haphazardly put people to death.
I didn't say haphazardly put people
Let's
to
just
death.
put them to death.
Why? How is
he
it haphazard?
He lived in Texas. We should do it as Texas does it.
I mean, he's lucky we don't. In fact, you know, that's a weird thing. If you're, running from a death penalty, you don't run to Texas.
Non-extradition country, not a death penalty.
What did Ron White say? Other states are getting rid of the death penalty. We're putting in a drive-through.
So I do death penalty work.
Yes,
I've done death penalty work. So I'm biased on the Catholicism in me makes me a little bit biased on this topic. I'm not in favor.
Oh, the pragmatism in me makes me biased on this topic. This is a great example of why you don't do this.
Yeah. So
because if not for a death penalty case, this guy would just be sitting in jail for the rest of his life, and we wouldn't be going through this today.
Now look. Galen on YouTube points out that there's other evidence. Well, if there's other evidence, then look, once you get the DNA testing done, doesn't mean he automatically gets a new trial. If it confirms that which the state already believes, then you keep it moving.
The other evidence was part of the original trial, was it not? The only thing that's going to be new here is the DNA.
Well, so it's interesting. Galen points out he had a pattern of criminal activity. Is a pattern of criminal activity prior to this case, does that trump DNA evidence? I don't know that it does. What you did in the past, does that trump forensic evidence that is biologically unique to you?
Well, that brings up a whole other can of worms. Well, I know, but
I'm sorry.
Because there was no forensic evidence from the other trials either.
Right. Can you imagine a case in 2021 without forensic evidence?
Oh, can you imagine a case where an attorney says if the glove don't fit, you must acquit?
I've said stupid stuff like that. And it worked in that case.
I'm just saying, let's swab the glove. Or the bat
can we
in this
talk
case.
About
or the cigarette butts in this case.
Can we talk about saving second base for a second?
Oh, can
Cancer
you
sucks.
not put it that way?
Cancer sucks, man.
Yes, it does.
October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes, we're
Me and a
6
few
days
other
in.
me and a few other dudes are raising money for Real Men Wear Pink to support the American Cancer Society. I got to raise money all throughout the month of October. If you go to the Go Rouge Facebook page, you'll notice that I'm raffling off these beautiful 30-ounce. This is only 20 ounces. I'm raffling off these 30-ounce monster pink Yeti cups. On one side it says Borghardt Law Firm, on the other side it says Cancer Sucks.
Because cancer does suck.
Cancer does suck.
So raffling off and these are like legit Yeti mugs,
Yeah.
not like the
These
not
are
like
not-
the they're not the knockoff.
These are
But
not Shetty.
I call them not Yetis.
Yeah, not Yetis.
Not
These are
Yetis.
real Yetis. If you donate $50, you get a chance to win. Right now, your chances of winning, I'm going to draw on Friday. We do every Friday in October. Your chances of winning right now are pretty good.
Okay.
So right now there's been 6 contributors. So, I mean, right now you have a 1 in 6 chance, or depending on how much you give, that modifies. But it's a pretty good shot of winning these. And I've got plenty of these to throw at breast cancer. So go to the Go Rouge Facebook page. Scroll down, Real Men Wear Pink, Franz Borghardt, donate $50. I'll see the donation. You can donate more. If you donate 100, you get 2 chances. If you donate 200, you get 4 chances. See how that math works?
I do.
Boom. Christy said she wanted one of these. I'm just saying.
One of the mugs?
She said she wanted one.
All
Just
right.
saying. Haggai's raising money for this cause as
So
well.
yeah, we're going to go through this again on Friday for Cup of Tech Gumbo as well because we need to help out as much as we can. We are 6 days into the month of October. October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
October's flying already, dude.
Bro.
Is it just me?
No.
I mean, whew,
No.
I blinked and September was over.
I know.
Like I woke up and there was cool weather today. It was great.
Was there?
It was nice. It was decent.
What's coming up on Go Rouge this week?
Dude, we've got the LSU women's soccer coach. Coach Sean's going to be on. We're celebrating Filipino American Awareness Month. October is also Filipino American Awareness Month. I didn't know that. And then we
Me
also
neither.
have the Center for Literacy and Learning on. So good times. Good times. Awareness. It's all about awareness. Getting the word out there.
That'll be Saturday at 4 right here on Talk 107.3 FM or wherever you get or the Go Rouge.
On
Subscribe-
demand, baby.
Yes, Go
on
Rouge
demand.
on demand. Subscribe on YouTube or just follow them on Facebook.
Yeah.
In the meanwhile, he is attorney Franz Borghardt, joins us every Wednesday at this time. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, guys.
We got the CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a little bit. Next hour, it's time to check in on Lafourche Parish in the wake of Hurricane Ida. It's been a minute since we've checked in Lafourche Parish. Brennan Matherne, the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer, is going to hop on board. Also, Congressman Garrett Graves next hour as well. That's all coming your way right after we check CBS News right here on Talk 107.3. I'm going to go find out what's off air. Tiger went off the air. It was 100.7. They're back now. Everything's good. Yes. What, Franz? Yeah. Yeah, and there's so normally when he's in, we put up his logo on here. There's a legally served logo, so I'll make I'll have Chuck send that to you because he knows where all that stuff is.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I know. Galen says his confession was not the only evidence. No, I know. Oh. So, Byron says, what was that sound? I feel like my vaccination chip was activated. That's exactly what the sound was, Byron. Your vaccination chip was activated. You will now be remarkably susceptible to suggestion. Go get a burger from Mooyah for lunch.
I swear this is the only show that you can get me thinking about burgers at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
A weakness. Anything different happening with one of your teams?
What do you mean?
I don't know, you just seem particularly chipper today.
I get better as the week wears on. I don't have much of a weekend, so I'm always tired on Mondays. And since moving from coffee to Red Bull, I seem to be doing a lot better as well. Which sucks because that's a lot more expensive. The coffee is free. I just think it's the amount of liquid in my stomach.
Who knows, you could push for a sponsor.
Right?
Morning show sponsored by Red Bull.
As soon as I say that, I yawn. I don't like the story. I gotta get another story.
You still have Matherne's, and now we have BR Mattress.
Oh, I didn't know I had my thorns. Okay.
Uh,
All good.
yeah. From a strictly musical perspective, what's your favorite intro for your hours? 1, 2, or 3? Which one do you enjoy?
Oh,
hearing
I
the
love the
most?
Swedish House Mafia.
First one?
Second, this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like the second one too. This one should be fun. All right, here we go.
.706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to attorney Franz Borghardt for hopping in for Legally Served as he does every single Wednesday. If you missed it, it'll be available at talk1073.com in our on-demand section a little bit after the show. Still to come, like we said, Brennan Matherne from the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office is going to give us an update on Hurricane Ida recovery. And Congressman Garrett Graves is going to be on for D.C. Current. That's all this hour. Going to get you to top stories and trending in just a minute, but if you are hosting a watch party for this weekend, if you're not making the trip to Kentucky to watch LSU football in the Bluegrass State, you might want to swing by Matherne's. In fact, you definitely want to swing by Matherne's. They've got party trays ready to go for this weekend. And if you're already looking to start planning for next weekend for the Florida game, I know an 11 a.m. kickoff kind of kills the buzz for game day altogether. They've got breakfast trays for game day as well. So whether you're gearing up for a watch party at your house for this weekend or looking to trim down on what hour you've got to get out to the tailgate because you don't want to cook breakfast before dawn, Matherne's has got you covered. Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive, the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. And, of course, download the app. Get your grocery shopping done. Join the rewards program, especially if you're looking to hit them up for tailgating. Join the rewards program because a lot of that would go towards the exact same earning of rewards over at Matherne. Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. They're also available downtown on 3rd Street. You know where to find both locations of Matherne. All right, top stories and trending. Let's go. Well, the morning started off with for the Baton Rouge Fire Department with a house fire at around 5:30 a.m. in the 300 block of North 24th Street. It was 5:30 a.m., excuse me. First responders worked to get the blaze under control. Area traffic was temporarily blocked off. This impacted drivers near the intersection of Florida and Laurel Streets. By about 6:20, firefighters were able to confirm the blaze was under control. All the home's occupants were accounted for and safe. There's still time for survivors of Hurricane Ida to file a claim with FEMA, but the window of time allowing for such applications will soon come to a close. To assist with that, FEMA has launched what it's called a canvassing initiative, going door to door. Community outreach program is designed to reach those who may have had transportation troubles that prevent them from traveling to one of the FEMA sites, and to those who lack internet access and subsequently lack FEMA's online application opportunities as well. But what about those that just can't physically get to the front door? I mean, all those are going to be left behind too, right? Oh, by the way, we get till roughly the end of this month to file for FEMA claims. Number 3. Oh, grabbing this one from the Daily Report. The Capital Region will have gained back about 81% of the jobs it lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic by the end of this year, outpacing the rest of the state. This, according to economist Dr. Lauren Scott. Much of that growth will be driven by the Baton Rouge area's industrial construction sector, which the pandemic hit hard, he says. About $6 billion worth of projects are already underway. Another $7.8 billion have been announced but are not yet moving forward. Actually, we talked about a lot of this with Adam Knapp from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber yesterday. A couple of those ones that are not yet moving forward but are expected to get started in the fourth quarter of this year. ExxonMobil's project that they've been talking about, and over at Ascension Parish, I believe it's Ascension Parish, Methanex, and then we're still waiting on final word from Grown Fuels as well. Are we looking at more development off Burbank Drive? Well, it'll be in front of the Planning Commission tonight. After similar previous requests have been approved, developers of Pelican Lakes on Burbank are asking the Planning Commission for permission to add more than 100 new lots to the subdivision. Quote, Pelican Lakes was started in 2012, was part of an 800-lot master development, says Art Lancaster, the project's developer. This is the last 114 lots of that. If approved, Lancaster says the final number of lots would reach 717, substantially fewer than the 800 they had originally planned. Now, this application comes at a time when new development, especially in flood hazard areas, which includes Pelican Lakes, are facing increased pushback from the public and, in some cases, the Planning Commission as well. Baton Rouge has broken its record for domestic violence murders. East Baton Rouge Parish breaking this record. Growing worry that the number's only going to increase. We've still got 3 months left in the year. So far this year, East Baton Rouge has seen 25 domestic violence murders. Last year's record was 19. With nearly 3 months left to go in 2021, we don't know where it's going to end up. But we do know we will be talking about it at 8:35 this morning when some representatives from the district attorney's office are going to be in studio. That's a look at your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Kellogg's is on strike. Workers at all of the Kellogg's company's U.S. cereal plants came to a halt. Work at all of the Kellogg company's U.S. cereal plants came to a halt Tuesday. Roughly 1,400 workers went on strike, but it wasn't immediately clear how much the supply of Frosted Flakes and or the company's other iconic brands would be disrupted. The strike includes plants in Omaha, Nebraska, Battle Creek, Michigan, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Memphis, Tennessee. The union and the Battle Creek-based company have been at an impasse at the bargaining table for more than a year, said Daniel Osborne, president of the local union in Omaha. The dispute involves an assortment of pay and benefit issues, such as the loss of premium health care, holiday and vacation pay, and reduced retirement benefits. The company, for their part, insists that their offer is fair and would increase wages and benefits for their employees that it said made an average of $120,000 last year. I'm guessing that's benefits included with the salary, because if you make $120,000, put Lucky Charms in a box, I'm in the wrong field. That's your top stories and trending. Quick break when we come back. Let's get caught up on Hurricane Ida recovery. Brennan Matherne from the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office joins us next.
Stephon Gilmore just got released by the Patriots.
Okay. Let me give you Brennan's phone number. You said Baton Rouge Mattress?
Yeah.
Okay. 7:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We're heading down to Lafourche Parish in 60 seconds. I do have to ask you first how you slept last night. Because if you've got an old mattress, a lumpy mattress, an out-of-date mattress, mattresses do have a lifespan. And if you're not getting the best night's sleep, you're not going to have the most productive day. Admittedly, I kept my mattress way too long before going to see Mitch Kimball and his team over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. I went to the Mid-City location, 4065 Florida Boulevard. There's also the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier, too, if you're in the southeastern part of the parish or in Ascension or whatever. Sleeping on a good mattress makes all the difference in the world. I can speak to this personally. Finding the mattress that's right for you plays into this. So go by 4065 Florida Boulevard or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier, too, and just start laying down on mattresses. Just lay down. If Mitch is there, he might lay next to you, tell you a bedtime story, let you take a nap, whatever the case may be. But you got to go through the whole Goldilocks situation, right? You got to find the one that's not too hard, not too soft, but the one that's just right. If you like pillow top, yes, they've got it. If you need the cooling gel because you run a little hot at night, they've got that as well. I went with the hybrid mattress, which is awesome. Anyway, 4065 Florida Boulevard or 18181 Jefferson Highway. He's always got great deals on mattresses. You're always going to find the lowest prices. You're always going to find the best service. And if you mention you heard about it here, free delivery at both locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. All right, how we doing in the wake of Hurricane Ida? Time to check in Lafourche Parish. Time to welcome in their Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer, Brennan Matherne. Brennan, what's happening, man? How you been?
Doing good, Brian. It's been a long, slow road. I think we were all running on adrenaline the first 2-3 weeks, and now that everything's starting to settle down, I think people are really starting to realize the long road we have ahead, and I think it's really starting to affect some people.
And y'all are at that point right now where you're no longer in the emergency situation, but you're kind of in that not motivated to do anything else situation right now either. How do you muster up the energy to keep the progress moving?
It's been tough for people. Talking with Sheriff Weber, we sort of coined that phrase that for most of our residents, everything's getting a little bit better every day. It's getting a little bit better. But for some of our residents, things are getting a little bit worse every day. And those residents are people that have maybe just got power back, or there's probably still a handful that don't have power, and still struggling. We have people back in school in the north and central areas, but the south area won't go back to school for another couple of weeks. So those students are still in limbo, and they've already been out of school 5.5 weeks. And it's just things like that. Now they have to worry about uniforms and trying to get uniforms to go to school. And we have a great nonprofit here, Bless Your Heart, that's working on a uniform drive for the students in the South area. But it's the little things like that. I think, we see the magnitude of this disaster, and you look at your house, in some cases, people have roofs gone or people have nothing left, and they've kind of taken it upon themselves to figure out what their living arrangement is going to be. But it's all those little things like that continue to pile up that really makes life tough for people here.
Did we get a final count on how many people just physically lost their homes?
There's differing counts that we've gotten from parish government. What I can tell you is that the number that Parish President Archie Shassaw keeps using is about 2,800 people that are completely displaced, and they have just nowhere else to go. Some of those have went ahead and found campers, or they're renting somewhere, or they've moved in with family. But we definitely have a large portion of that 2,800 that are simply waiting on what's going to happen next. When is FEMA going to come in with temporary housing? We do have a shelter at the LaRose Civic Center. FEMA has put up a large congregate shelter in the Raceland area. So we're starting to see some of that relief for those people that just don't know what they were going to do. But tensions are starting to rise too. I mean, you have people that have been living with family now for over a month, and while staying with family for 5 days can be tough on some people, imagine staying there for 5 weeks and with everything you own, and everyone trying to use one washer and dryer. I mean, there's just a number of things that kind of build those tensions, and I think we saw an example of that potentially with the homicide we had on Monday. We had a shooting on Monday, and you had a large number of people living in a home that had taken on a lot of damage. There was a tent in the front yard that some people were using. I mean, it's situations like this that, again, the smallest things can end up boiling over and potentially making a huge problem.
Brennan Matherne with the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office is our guest. We are talking about the wake and the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. Brennan, has the local school board, we talked with Dr. Kate Brumley earlier this week about the schools that have been out for this long and how they kind of, make a patchwork school year out of this year. But for the schools in the lower end of the parish that are still out, do they have a plan? Do they have a target date? Or what are they going to do? Do you punt on the whole year? I mean, if you're a senior in high school and you've missed 5.5 weeks, I don't know that you're ready to graduate if you're not back in just yet. What's their path moving forward?
Well, I'll defer to those specifics to the school board, but I can tell you that they did release publicly yesterday a new calendar. So now we have, and when you look at Lafourche Parish, we are a long, narrow parish, and so even the residents here, we're largely separated as a north, central, and south area, and that's how the school board looked at things. We have Thibodaux High School, Central Lafourche High School, and South Lafourche High School. And so all the schools that feed into those particular schools, last Monday you had all the schools in the north area with Thibodaux High School on down that returned. This Monday you had Central Lafourche and all of its schools that returned. The South Lafourche area, South Lafourche High School and all of their feeder schools are now scheduled to return on October 18th. But to your point, they've basically eliminated or cut short a lot of the holidays. Normally you get a week for Mardi Gras, a week for Thanksgiving, things like that. Well, those are now cut down, and you only get maybe 2 or 3 days for some of those holidays where the students saw a week off. On top of that, they're going to be at school well into June.
Yeah.
I think June 21st is around the time that we're looking at that students will be in school, and that's assuming that we don't have any more closures. I mean, with COVID and everything else, we really don't know, what's going to happen in the next few weeks. And not to mention, look, hurricane season's not over. Last year we saw Hurricane Zeta in late October. That really was the worst of it, despite 8 times being in the cone of uncertainty last year. It was the last one, Hurricane Zeta, in late October that really did the most damage here in Lafourche Parish.
No, 100%. And yeah, we're not done with it yet. It's only October 6th. Hurricane season runs through November 30th. I know it feels nice to step outside to a little bit lower humidity and a slightly lower temperature, but that doesn't call off the dogs by any stretch of the imagination. Structurally, when it comes to the schools, I assume nothing is so out of whack that it would cause like makeshift schools, would it?
Well, we do have some of the private schools that have been making arrangements. For example, Vanderbilt Catholic in Houma, which is actually in Terrebonne Parish, their students are attending E.D. White Catholic High in Thibodaux, and so we do have some visitors from Terrebonne that are attending school there, and they're on sort of a makeshift like A-B day schedule there. So that and again, I would have to defer to the Catholic schools and the diocese to kind of comment on that, but certainly that is making things a lot different for all of those students, E.D. White and Vanderbilt together, obviously. And we have schools like Holy Savior Catholic Church in Lockport that are using a makeshift school in Matthews. The St. Hilary Church used to have a Catholic school many years ago. The building's still there and actually didn't take on as much damage, and so the children from Holy Savior in the Lockport area, whose school did take on a lot of damage, are actually attending this old school that used to be populated a long time ago. So we do have some situations like that. It's unclear in the South area. Again, I haven't spoken with the school board to know the specifics, but I do know there's at least 1 or 2 situations with possibly some elementary schools in the South area that may be moving or attending another place for a few weeks. But look, there's a lot of damage, especially at South Lafourche High School. There was water, I think, pretty much in all the halls there. So even though they're going to get that place up and running, it'll look a lot different when students go back.
Talking with Brennan Matherne, the Public Information Officer for the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, about where they're at in the wake of Hurricane Ida. Brennan, let's move over to debris removal. I know up here in Baton Rouge, it's as simple as like if you're getting frustrated with having a pile of sticks in your front yard. Down there, it's a much different scenario. How is the parish handling it, and how far along the process are y'all with getting all the damage and debris out of there?
Well, according to the parish president yesterday, it sounds like, not to put quantity on it because I think it's tough with debris, but I think we're about a third of the way picked up with the debris after 5 weeks. The debris pickup started not long after the storm, maybe about a week or 2 afterwards, and people had started putting debris out. There are some areas where you can go down streets and a lot of the debris is picked up, but we have a unique situation where Bayou Lafourche bisects the parish basically from north to south, and you have state highways, LA 1 and 308, that run parallel. And so those state highways, you have, just based on the contracts, you have state contractors picking up the debris there versus the parish contractors, which are picking up debris on the individual streets. So you have some frustration, obviously, with residents who you may see, the debris along the highway picked up, but the debris down the street isn't picked up, or vice versa, where we're seeing more and more where the debris down the street is picked up, but the debris along the highway, some of these houses along the highway, still have large piles of debris, and it is causing some issues. Just yesterday, driving home from my office in Cutoff, I had to dodge a couple of tree branches that are sticking out into the highway. So you still have huge piles of debris, especially along our state highways, that are definitely causing some issues.
Once you get through debris removal, the next phase would be, of course, reconstruction, which I'm sure a lot of that's going on right now. But that also means a lot of newcomers rolling into town. Are y'all having any problems managing, staving off fraud, staving off the scam contractors that come in?
At this time, no. We haven't had a ton. We have had a couple of minor incidents that have come to light, and we have investigated those and brought charges. But it's been people that, sadly enough, that we've dealt with before with contractor fraud and residents of the area, which is really disappointing. So far, we haven't had issues. I think the issues could potentially come much later when people realize that they've hired someone from out of town, didn't check credentials, and the work is discovered to be shoddy, or there's no warranty, or the warranty isn't what they say they were. I think that's the issue that we're going to be dealing with, and that's just one of the number of issues that, as this thing goes along and as time passes on, you're going to be having more frustration set in with the residents when things like that pop up. But by and large, the only issues of fraud that we've seen for the most part have been actually FEMA fraud. People from other areas filing FEMA claims using other contact information, like a different email address, to try to get some of that FEMA claim based off of residences that lived here, which is awful to hear. But it also is imperative why every resident really needs to contact FEMA and make sure that you have the right claim number. If you haven't already, make sure you have the right claim number. Make sure everything lines up, and that they know that you are who you say you are.
Last one before we get you out of here, and since you mentioned FEMA, let's talk about FEMA dollars coming in. Once those dollars start making their way into the bank accounts of the residents of Lafourche Parish, I expect the activity will pick back up again. Do y'all have any kind of timeline on physically seeing the money that can get people rebuilt?
No, and we've been talking with FEMA, and no one can tell us anything definite. I mean, just from a standpoint, I'm just trying to get information, for example, for our employees at the sheriff's office, which we had about 25 people that have been completely displaced by the storm here at the sheriff's office, none of which, by the way, have deserted or missed a shift at all. So kudos to our men and women at the sheriff's office that have been fighting through this and have been serving the community despite dealing with damage. I mean, look, everyone's home saw some kind of damage, but at least 25 of our employees have had to figure out where they're going to live for the time being. But just trying to get information for them on when they might see it, and it's just nothing definitive. When people were filing, for example, for the $800 for the generators and $250 for the chainsaws, you see that it may take 10 days. Then we talk to FEMA. Oh, well, that could take 4 to 6 weeks because they're prioritizing people that have completely lost their homes, and that's understandable. But again, every dollar helps. I would say this, though, Lafourche Parish, I mean, we've been through Katrina, we've been through Hurricane Gustav, we've been through big storms that have either, affected other areas more so that got the attention, or like in the case of Gustav, where we had huge issues here, but because it didn't affect New Orleans as bad, the storm itself didn't get the attention. And I think we feel like that again, where this affected such a large area that maybe we feel like we're not getting the attention that we need here in the Lafourche and Terrebonne area. And I think that's part of the issue here, is that we feel like we need the most attention. We took the direct hit, and you don't always see that. So our people are used to this, and they're taking the bull by the horns, so to speak, the ones who can, and worrying about themselves and fending for themselves. And if and when FEMA shows up and that FEMA money shows up, hey, great. It'll give us more resources to rebuild. But in the meantime, people are just doing what they need to do to survive at this point.
Yeah, we checked in with Tanner McGee not long ago about the program that y'all have up and running to kind of get housing going before FEMA is active. In the meanwhile, we'll help out wherever we can to keep that voice and lines of communication open. He is Brennan Matherne with the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. Appreciate the update, man. Stay after it.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yep, talk to you soon. We are late for CBS News. Let's get it. I don't think it's beeping anymore. I'm good. All right. Extreme mornings? No. Yeah. Fueled by Red Bull. Oh, he always calls at the last second. He won't be on until right before we go in, if at all. I do. Oh, sweet. do it afterwards. I got Congressman in the studio. I want to utilize every ounce of it, but thank you. .738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Congressman Garrett Graves going to be in studio in just a second. He was kind enough to bring gifts this morning, and I cannot thank him enough for that. Congressman Graves, welcome aboard. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. How about you? Great
Doing
to be
all
here.
right. So in my hand right now is called Garden District Honey.
That's right.
And did you say this is your honey?
That's our honey. That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Give me the backstory, man.
Well, so we had a neighbor a few years ago who had bees inside their house, and this guy came over and cut it out. It was unbelievable. Cut it out, and you see this huge honeycomb all up in their house. So I started talking to him. Next thing we know, we ended up getting some hives. So I've been a beekeeper now for a few years, and still learning. And that was one of the harvests there. So there you go.
All right, greatly appreciative. Plus a freshly baked muffin.
Well, it's a full confession on that one. I cooked that yesterday.
Oh.
But it is good. It's,
Backstory: Congressman Graves has some serious game in the kitchen, so it's always a special treat when he brings in.
No, this one's
something
good,
like a
healthy.
muffin.
It's whole wheat. It's a whole bunch of fruit.
Is there a cranberry in there?
No, it's a raisin.
That's a raisin.
Believe it or not, spinach, coconut, apples, all kinds of stuff. It's good for you, but it tastes good too. I promise.
Looking forward to it greatly. Also looking forward to the honey. I'm always amazed by the process. Anybody who keeps
it's
bees,
impressive.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, we've got a lot of business to tend to as well. Let's start with where we're at with infrastructure right now.
Yeah.
Because it looks like, in spite of the work that a few bipartisan senators took on.
Yeah.
These two things are not going to be able to be separated.
And see, that was the concern all along, and I don't condemn anybody who was involved in this thing, but what's happened is that folks have taken it and inextricably linked the infrastructure bill, which does have some good things in it, have some concerns as well, but has some good things, but linked it inextricably with a $4.3 trillion expansion of social welfare. So you can no longer look at them separately and say, is this infrastructure bill good or is this reconciliation bill good? You have to look at it as a package. It's way too much spending. If you add it all up, they're looking at spending $11.4 trillion this year, just off the charts. We're especially concerned about inflation. We're already seeing record rates, interest rates going up, and what that would do to the competitiveness of the U.S. economy.
It's sad because just here in Louisiana, we're still, I keep hearing mention of a new bridge. I know we need work on I-10. It's just, and yet at the end of the day, we're not going to see any of it.
It doesn't look very promising right now, but look, let me give you some good news, because while all these people are there fighting, just last week, all we heard about at home was all the fighting that was going on, Republicans and Democrats and Schumer and Pelosi and all this stuff going on. Let me tell you what happened when everybody was fighting. We were working on a bill to actually get some hurricane recovery, not really reported. $600 million we expect to come for the victims of Laura, Delta, Zeta, in southwest Louisiana.
Yes.
That's in direct assistance to them. $1 billion we expect for Hurricane Ida victims. I do think that's going to increase. I think we're going to have another chance to get some additional funds there, and about $2 billion in additional funding for flood protection, hurricane protection, and addressing some of our waterway issues. So $3.6 billion just on Thursday last week that we were able to secure, that I think is going to be a really important investment, or investments for Louisiana.
It was kind of a mixed bag with the hurricane relief, because it sounds like it's great, and yet the mayor of Lake Charles was like, too little too late. And I'm like, what do you want? I mean, they're working.
Yeah, he is right. Let me clear. No, he is. So a couple things. Number one, there are not other places in the country that can go back and say, hey, we were hit by 5 hurricanes last year. Nobody can say that. Right. I mean, in fact, that's unprecedented. I'm not aware of any time when you've had that kind of impact. Number two, you remember after the 2016 flood, look, after Hurricane Ida, 1 month after those disasters, we secured recovery funding. Here we are 14 months after the impacts they had, and they're getting their first tranche of funds. We got $1.7 billion ultimately for the Great Flood of 2016. He's looking at $600 million for these cascading hurricanes, and I understand his frustration. I think it is very well founded, but I think the first thing is let's go ahead and execute on the $600 million, get it out to people as quickly as we can, and I give my commitment to work with Congressman Higgins and others who represent that area to try to get them the additional funds.
How active has Congressman Higgins been in this? Because I haven't heard his name a whole lot.
Yeah, and look, he's been out there fighting for those folks in Southwest Louisiana. This is a really challenging. Issue. I mean, anytime you have something like this where you have kind of a universe of one, and what I mean by that is you have sort of one congressional district in the entire country that's affected by something. It's you out there trying to convince everybody else that this is important whenever folks are all looking internally at their own districts. And so it's a hard process. I'm not going to deny that. But we've been working for Hurricane Ida. You've got to get out there and market this stuff. We've been trying to do that, but certainly he's been pushing for those folks.
Yeah, and he's in a weird spot. He hasn't been around D.C. for a million years. He's a unique character to begin with. I would imagine there's a lot of just begging for someone to listen.
Yeah, it really goes into a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
One of the things we brought people down here. We had a number of congressional hearings in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Ida. I sat there and went place to place during the hearing and just put destroyed homes, businesses, community all behind me because I wanted all these other members of Congress to see what it was we were dealing with. I immediately started offering amendments trying to add funds to Hurricane Ida relief, putting this in front of them. And so I think a lot of those things were really helpful and helped contribute to us getting these recovery funds within a month. But certainly we're going to need to do even more, I think, for both Southwest Louisiana and for Hurricane Ida victims.
Getting back to overall business in Washington, D.C., the debt ceiling, I guess, is going to be the next pressing topic. How do we address this without jacking with the full faith and credit of the U.S.?
Yeah, Brian, look, a few things. One, the integrity of the U.S. financial systems is really paramount. It is. And so we've got to be very careful. This is potentially, playing with fire here by allowing for any type of default. But let me put all this in context. So what we've seen so far, we've seen Speaker Pelosi shove a $1.9 trillion stimulus package down Republicans' throats earlier this year after every other COVID stimulus bill was done on a bipartisan basis, all of them, like 7 of them. Number 2, they come in and they shove a partisan infrastructure bill through the House. This is separate than the one that we're now talking about, but they shoved that one through the House. They then came in and did a partisan reconciliation package, $4.3 trillion, shoved it down through. So all of a sudden, everything they've done has been unilateral, straight Democrats, no bipartisan cooperation, and then all of a sudden they come in and they say, we need your help with the debt ceiling. It's like, wait, this is the only point that we have, the only ability we have to have them stop, take a step back, curb back some of this excessive spending. It's the only pressure point that we have. Do I like playing these games? No, I don't. But don't come in and be irresponsible and reckless on your spending and then come in and ask us effectively to help you do it because they want to extend this unlimited debt ceiling through the end of next year, which will allow them to borrow funds for some of this excessive spending they're talking about.
Yeah, and we've walked this in the past. I want to say, was it 2012 or 2013 when the last time it was like a really huge deal? And it happens frequently. We've raised the debt ceiling countless times since we first started raising the debt ceiling, but you only hear about it once it's too late. Like I don't know why spending. We don't hear about, okay, but we're getting closer. Okay, but you got to stop. Okay, now we're there again.
And Brian, this is almost identical to the concept of having your credit card limit raised.
Yeah.
And so then you go and incur more debt, and you start thinking about it. And there are projections that economists have done that indicate that by 2045, we could be looking at a debt of in excess of $350,000 per taxpayer. I mean, I couldn't afford it. You couldn't afford it. unless I hit the lottery this weekend. But no, I'm kidding. But I couldn't. And so, these things are really outrageous, and the impact on our children and grandchildren. We've got to be more responsible than that.
No, we do. It's just it's a matter of the roof isn't leaking when it's not raining, and I'm not fixing the leak when it's raining. We're constantly in that cycle. It is a cycle. What else is going on? What else are you working on?
Flood insurance is another big one. You know that just was it 5 days ago?
It was.
They started implementing these new rates on flood insurance. We've seen homes that are going to have flood insurance rates increase tenfold in some areas, St. Charles and Lafourche parishes. So continuing to work on trying to get that stopped.
Does the work on flood protection potentially affect the work on insurance or the impact of insurance rate hikes?
Amen. And so one of the things we've been trying to do is we've been working to try to delay implementation of these flood insurance rates while we concurrently work on all this flood protection work. Like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we've just secured an additional $2 billion in flood protection and waterway type work. That's on top of the $3.6 billion we've secured in recent years. So the more we can make investments in that type of infrastructure, the safer people become, the lower flood insurance rates are, and the less this becomes relevant for us.
Would that work be able to pull things back that are going up? I mean, or is it we are where we're going to be and we're just not going to continue to move forward?
No. It would actually allow us to have rates that go down. It would actually help to lower rates if we can get these projects built and therefore not just freezing rates where they are, but potentially even bringing them down.
Where we're at with, and I would only imagine that, crud, we're almost out of time. As bad as Hurricane Ida was, what we're able to show with levee protection and everything else, there was a very discernible difference between inside the levees and outside the levees. That has to be just a weapon in the arsenal to ask for more help. It shows that the work we're doing is working.
Look, the greater New Orleans area, the 5 parishes there, we invested billions of dollars in levees and hurricane protection. That area stayed dry. La Rose de Golden Meadow in southern Lafourche Parish, huge levee system that was there. We did a little YouTube video on this. They did a great job. That area stayed dry. And in Terrebonne Parish, lower Terrebonne Parish, where they came in and built this first lift of the Morganza to the Gulf Hurricane Protection System, all this done with local control, the levee district and the state leading the charge. That area largely stayed dry. It proves that these proactive investments work. We've got to complement it with the restoration of our coast, and that is the path forward to a sustainable footprint in South Louisiana.
It absolutely is. He is Congressman Garrett Graves. How long are you in town for?
We are in town until October 16th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then right back into the thick of it again.
Yes.
I always appreciate you stopping. If you could hang out during the break, I've got a question that was emailed to me, and I can't read it from this far away. So he's Congressman Garrett Graves, joins us every week for DC Current. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to check traffic. On the back end of traffic, we will have the outside end. Don't forget next hour, we've got District Attorney Hiller Moore's office is going to be in studio. We're talking about domestic violence. We broke a record in Baton Rouge when it came to domestic violence murders. We're going to dive into that in our next hour. Right now, though, quick break. Coming back on the other side after traffic right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk. Missed it by a second. All right. Eric says, if you don't mind asking the congressman if there were income limits on generator reimbursement.
No. There was a lot of rumors about income limits and rumors about medical versus non-medical needs. FEMA came in and clarified that. At first, they were saying it was medical only for generators. They backed off of that. No income limits. If folks are running into problems, happy to help them out. Okay. If you want to, I don't know if you can put in our office phone number. Happy to, if he wants to give us a call.
We'll give it out. I'm pretty sure he's watching right now.
Okay. Eric, hey, if you're watching, where's your camera? Right there.
Right there. Hey,
if you're watching, Eric, give us a call, 225-442-1731. Again, it's 442-1731. Give us a call. Let us see if we can get in touch with FEMA and find out what's going on. Let me know, though, when you call if you were actually denied or if it says you're pending, and we'll see if we can help out.
Yeah, he says in the email, everyone else I know has been reimbursed. I was out of power for 3 weeks. So he says they assigned a FEMA inspector when I reported no damage, which I haven't heard from them. So, but he was without power for 3 weeks.
He reported no damage, you said?
Yeah, reported
okay.
no damage.
Yeah, so see, a lot of times when you do that, Eric, and we've run into this over and over again. Their little questionnaire was not very. I guess it could have been done better. I'll just put it that way, because people sometimes they hit no damage. Then FEMA would say, okay, well you didn't have any problems, including electricity, so you don't need a generator. So a lot of confusion there. When folks wanted to go back and amend it, and sometimes, and there wasn't no process to do that. But let us see if we can jump in and help you out.
Yeah, a loss of electricity is damage.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just that
absolutely.
You've got a freezer full of food.
Yeah.
I mean, that in and of itself can be a couple $100 worth of damage.
Yeah.
And you're reimbursed for up to $800 for the generator. So,
well, in many cases, the alternative is go and get a FEMA paid for hotel room, which you do the math for 3 weeks, you're going to be much better off paying for a generator than you are some of these alternatives.
Anyway, I appreciate it.
All right, you bet.
Thank you so much.
Take care, y'all. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks for the honey.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Enjoy.
Oh, that smells so good.
So that jar, that stopped leaking, right?
Yeah, it's right over there.
Okay, it didn't leak anymore, though, did it? No, I dropped it on the way in, so that lid dented. Okay, yeah. Good deal. All right, good seeing you again. Good seeing you as well. Take care.
I got a muffin. Huh. There is spinach in it. Oh, God, it's so good. Mm-hmm.
Spinach in a muffin. Is that normal?
He's got ridiculous game in the kitchen.
Oh,
Like,
for real?
This isn't the first time he's brought me something. He's so good. Oh, we didn't talk about red snappers. Or the oil and gas lease. Damn it, Brian.
You'll get him on.
Hey, it's on every week.
Exactly.
Hopefully he'll be back in studio again next week.
It's just always better when the interviewee is in studio.
Yep.
I don't have to tell you that. I'm sure it's all the same to you since you've been doing this for long enough, but it feels like for me now, like these shows are just flying through way quicker.
Somewhat. I mean, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. Sorry, I put the jacket back on just for the pictures.
I thought about that. I was snapping. I was like, yeah, he definitely put that on for the picture. Mm-hmm. Hey, good for you, though.
Yep.
That means you take your craft seriously. Enough. All right, got the outside in.
Hmm. $7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Thanks again to Congressman Garrett Graves for stopping in studio for D.C. Current. Boy, he wasn't kidding. This muffin is all full of all kinds of stuff. There's spinach in here. Oh, sorry, the congressman brought me a muffin. And for those who don't know, he's got ridiculous game in the kitchen. Your boy can cook. This is so good, though. All right, I'm going to have to wait till news for the rest of that. That's so good. I always appreciate the congressman's time, especially when he can pop in studio. Conversation is always lively. There's never a shortage of topics. I was actually running through the list of press releases after the segment was over, and there's so much ground we haven't even covered yet. But that's why we talk to him every single week, to make sure that if we miss anything, we can get up to speed in the next week. We've got CBS News coming your way in about 4 minutes. Right now, though, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish every single day for the Outside In. We're going to start off in West Baton Rouge Parish. The bar where a teenager was accused of shooting a man to death last month will keep its state liquor license, but they won't be able to operate for now. At a hearing yesterday, it was decided the Louisiana Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control would not revoke the liquor license of Rack's Bar. The bar's permit has been suspended pending that hearing. However, the bar's parish-level permit is still suspended pending a hearing next week over there in West Baton Rouge. Heading up to Senla, a man who sold someone fentanyl under the guise that it was being heroin was convicted yesterday. U.S. Attorney's Office said 36-year-old Dustin Thompson pled guilty to drug trafficking and firearm charges dating back to March of 2018. Thompson told someone he was selling them heroin when the drug was actually fentanyl. The person took the drug while driving, passed out behind the wheel, and crashed his car into the Alexandria Police Department. Imagine a world where telling someone it's heroin actually makes it better. Thompson's facing a maximum sentence of 20 years for the drug conviction and no less than 10 for his firearm conviction as well. Keeping it in Sinla, Rapides Parish to be exact. A teacher was arrested after deputies found he downloaded child pornography. The Avoyelles Sheriff's Office is where the investigation first began into Joshua Reeves back on September 20th in conjunction with the Louisiana Attorney General's office. Reeves, a teacher with the Rapides Parish School System, was arrested yesterday. He's been held in jail on a bond of $250,000. Closing out in Assumption Parish. Turns out Larry's legit. A man suspected of posing as a federal worker to steal storm victims' personal information turned out to be a real FEMA agent. The Assumption Parish Sheriff's Office warned over the weekend that a man calling himself Larry was reaching out to residents about storm-related claims. On Sunday, the Sheriff's Office made a post on social media saying Larry was asking for Social Security numbers and urged residents not to give him that information. Well, Larry's actually with FEMA. A day later, the department made another post saying, yeah, he's a federal worker. So, sorry, Larry. That's the Outside End, presented by Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. They've got 6 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. You will find them outside in. You'll find them in Ascension. You'll find them in Livingston, and you will have found them for the last 60 years. They introduced physical therapy to Baton Rouge. They know the process. They know how to make sure you are taken care of. They know they're going to sit you down, talk about your level of comfort with therapy, and I'm not just talking about recovering from a major injury. I'm talking about anything that's keeping you from being your best you. Check out brptlake.com, brptlake.com. Ooh, blocked. Rejected.
For those tuning in right now, Congressman Graves was nice enough to give me some of that honey as well. And the cap was a little leaky. Got on my fingers, tried it. Oh my God. That was incredible. I just felt like sharing that. I'll see y'all on this day in history.
All right, Batter's physical therapy's done, so I've still got complete collision. Yes. No, I did not. Yeah.
Also, that honey is to die for.
Oh, I tasted it.
Some of it.
So lucky I don't just drink it right now.
Yeah, some of it leaked out. I told the viewers on YouTube, some of it leaked out of the lid because it's a little busted. I had to go out of my way to let them know that it was that good.
It is good.
I just got to figure out what to do with it.
You should drink it.
The
It's
thing-
actually good for helping you sleep.
Really?
Local honey is good for allergies, good for your immune system.
I could put that in my tea.
There you go.
Ooh. I haven't had tea in a minute. I don't really drink tea in the mornings like I used to, just because I'm trying to wake up, not feel serenity. I just need to wake up. And mornings went from classical
Did you
to...
want to try some of this?
Yes. I was going to ask, but I was afraid of rejection. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I got time.
Yeah, I forgot to bring a Ghost Slim bar this morning, so that couldn't have been more perfectly timed.
Wow.
There's a lot going on there, isn't there?
There's so much in this, but it doesn't feel cluttered at all.
Right. Told you.
That's not fair.
Told you. Whoop.
Sorry, that muffin was too good.
Yep.
It's okay. Wow. I'm assuming he has kids. I don't really know much
Yeah.
about him. Well, good for them. I want to learn how to cook, like be real good at cooking, but I'm getting in my own way. No, definitely not complaining. That's the first thing I've eaten. Hmm?
A lot happened in this day in history.
Yes, I have a lot, but I assume there's going to be plenty of things that you're going to add.
We can run a little bit long because my interview for the second segment doesn't technically start till 8:20.
Okay. Complete collision. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
Okay. Have these intros always been the same for the hours? Like,
Chuck P added the third hour song. But yeah, the first 2 hours, because I didn't originally have a third hour to the show. The show started off at 2 hours, and it has since grown.
nice. Well, here goes third hour.
.806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour number 3 coming your way right now. Thanks again to Congressman Garrett Graves for stopping in studio last hour and for bringing what was a ridiculously good muffin. I say was because it gone. I mean, that didn't last very long. Every time he brings food up here, it doesn't last very long.
It's too good.
I know. It's so good. And healthy, too.
I actually don't
There's like
feel...
carrots and spinach up in that thing.
I don't feel like garbage after eating a
See?
muffin.
There you go. We've got a lot of ground to cover this hour. Starting with this question. What really happened in Wuhan?
What did happen in Wuhan?
Well, in order to get to the bottom of that, we're going to talk to Sharri Markson in our next segment. Sharri Markson wrote a book called, get ready for it, What Really Happened in Wuhan? Gotta love when the title of the book is the exact same as the question you're asking.
Is this an instance where you can actually judge a book by its cover?
You can. I would hope. Let's, hope this isn't like a cookbook.
Oh, I mean...
Well, there's a bad COVID-19 joke and a wet
Yeah.
market thing to be had there,
Was that
like
intentional?
making barbecuing
Was
bat.
that intentional, or did you just realize
Maybe. It
that?
was not intentional at all. All right. We're also going to talk domestic violence before we're done today. Every once a month, we'll sit down with the folks from the district attorney's office. Sometimes it's the district attorney, sometimes others from within his office. But we cover some pretty hefty topics, and I think domestic violence is one of those, especially when you consider just yesterday about the news story being reported that Baton Rouge has surpassed a record when it comes to domestic murders this year. So that'll be later on this hour. Right now, though, Jake takes us back in time with this day in history. All right, what do you got, Jake?
We're going to start things off in 1866, where we have the first train robbery in the U.S. The Reno brothers take $13,000.
Okay.
First train robbery.
Yeah.
Going to 1889, Thomas Edison shows his first motion picture.
That's weird, because this is also the anniversary of The Jazz Singer, which was the first motion picture to include a soundtrack. Right? I wonder if that was timed. You know what happened on this day in 1882?
What happened on this day
The
in 1882?
first ever World Series game.
Wow. Who played?
Cincinnati beat Chicago. Cincinnati won 4-0.
Chicago losing since day one.
Yeah, but I mean, at least they made it to the series.
True. But still, second place is first loser. Anyways, we'll go to 1926. Talking about losers, this is a terrible segue because this is like the least loser ever. Babe Ruth becomes first MLB player to hit 3 home runs in a World Series game as the New York Yankees beat the St. Louis Cardinals 10-5 in Game 4.
All right.
That was in St. Louis, by the way. Ice in the veins. 1939, Adolf Hitler denies he intends to go to war against France and Britain.
How'd that work out?
Not so great.
All right.
1959, single-game World Series attendance record set at 92,706 in L.A.
It's a lot for a baseball
That's
game.
a lot for a crowd in general. That's almost
I mean,
100,000
in L.A., you said?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you had 92,000 people leave in the middle of the 7th inning?
Traffic must have been bad that day. Worse than usual in L.A.
Moving on.
1960, Spartacus, directed by Stanley Kubrick, premieres in New York City. 1961, JFK advises Americans to build fallout shelters.
Really?
Really.
All right. I didn't know they had that pinned down to a day. Very nice.
Have you ever seen a fallout shelter in,
Yes,
in
many.
America?
They're kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of want one.
Low-key, me too. 1966, Oriole Jim Palmer, at the age of 20, is youngest to pitch a World Series shutout.
All right.
I thought you'd have something with that.
No.
You're a baseball fan.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. Moving on.
1993, after 9 seasons and 3 championships with the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan announces his retirement from the NBA. He later returns on March 18th, 1995, and leads the Bulls to another 3 NBA titles.
See, I find it interesting. You got Jim Palmer striking out guys in the World Series, but it was on this day in 1979 that Jimmy Carter welcomed in the Pope. He was the first U.S. president to welcome a Pope into the White House.
The first?
Uh-huh. Which seems weird as well because he was not, like, we had a Catholic president before that. The Catholic president doesn't bring in the Pope. Jimmy Carter does.
Some things just don't make sense when
Nope.
you look back on hindsight. That's going to include the events from me. Let's get right to the birthdays. First up, we have LeBron James Jr. turning 17 years old today.
Okay.
We have Trevor Lawrence, the main man for the Jags, turning 22. We have old school wrestling fans will like this. Bruno Sammartino was born on this day in 1935.
Nice.
Jonathan Kuminga, recent lottery pick from the Golden State Warriors, turns 19 years old. And then, I don't like the team. I like the player. Kyle Pitts from the Atlanta Falcons turns 21. You got any birthdays for me?
Oh, so many. You said
let's-
Trevor Lawrence. Did you mention Elizabeth Shue? Actress Elizabeth Shue is, how old is she today? I want to say 45. She's 50 years old today. Excuse me. Wow, she's 58. Did not realize that. Yeah, Elizabeth Shue, Rebecca Lobo, born on this day in 1973, and Hall of Fame football coach Tony Dungy.
Ooh.
As well as former Rangers outfielder Ruben Sierra, which that's a deep cut. You got to be like a huge 80s baseball fan to appreciate Ruben Sierra and that 1987 Topps card.
I can tell some memories were unlocked just there. That's going to conclude the birthdays. Let's get to the deaths. I only have one to mention. Eddie Van Halen died on this day, actually a year ago in 2020. Big shame, but that's going to conclude the deaths from me. Let's go to the holidays. First up, we'll start with a serious one, World Cerebral Palsy Day.
Okay.
We're going to move on. This one you're going to like, National Coaches Day.
Nope.
You don't?
Nope.
Come on, it's a day about you.
No, it's not.
Yeah, you're a coach.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm a coach. I mean, I coach fourth grade girls basketball and kindergarten boys, or kindergarten boys and girls.
Those tuning in, he said coach, so he's a coach.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it's Coaches Day for like real coaches, like on a college or professional level.
It didn't say that in the description, so
and
just accept that there's a holiday about you today, Brian.
No,
Just be merry.
it's not why we do it. Love of the game. That's it. That's all we need.
No, it's for today and today only. National Noodle Day is next.
Okay.
Exactly. And the last one, this one kind of made me laugh. National Transfer Money to Your Daughter Day.
No. No, because that's every day.
Yeah, no thank you. I don't have kids, obviously, but yeah, no. That's going to conclude this day in history.
All right, appreciate it, Jake. We're going to take a break in just a minute. Before we take that break, though, got to ask you if you know where you're going should you get into a car accident. Brian, I'm not in a car accident. Yeah, I know, but you got to know where you're going ahead of time. If you don't know where you're going ahead of time, you can end up going to the wrong place. I tell you every day about CompleteCollision.com. And the reason I do that is if you call your insurance company first after an accident, they're going to recommend someplace that they have a deal hammered out. And if they have a deal hammered out, one of those preferred care places, you're not the customer, they are. And their main concern is not your safety. Their main concern is getting you in and out quickly so they don't run up the rental car tab and cheaply. Safety doesn't play a factor here. With Complete Collision, it does. Complete Collision, certified by more than a dozen major car manufacturers. Complete Collision, the people that make the cars say take it there. Complete Collision is certified, has the iCar Gold Class certification, which puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. And they'll pick up that battle with the insurance company for you. If your insurance company says take it to XYZ Motors, you don't have to do that. It's up to you. You get to choose. Now, you have to do battle with them to get it through. That's another area where Complete Collision steps up to the plate. Check them out online, CompleteCollision.com. 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary or Perkins just east of Bluebonnet. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. I got to go see him on Friday. Yay. Doug over at Complete Collision. He did some work for me, and I have money for him.
Should we be getting the call from...
Yes, they will call in. And make sure it's pronounced Sharri and not Sharri or Sharri. All right. (817) Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 rolling right along. What really happened in Wuhan? Well, to find out, we're going to talk to the author of What Really Happened in Wuhan coming up in just a couple minutes. In the meanwhile, though, have you seen the latest COVID-19 numbers? I mean, I know we're kind of at a point in the pandemic where it's brutal to check on these every single day, right? But where we're at right now, fewer than 700 people are in the hospital with COVID-19. We had, just over 1,000 new cases reported yesterday. The number of deaths is still at a level that is, it's hovering around 40 per day. Although yesterday we had 39, that was reported including the entire weekend. But I got to tell you, the number of people in the hospital continuing to drop is such a positive sign. 671 is the exact number. It was, August 17th, we were at 3,022. 130 of those patients are on ventilators, by the way. 1,020 new cases reported yesterday. The dashboard up at Louisiana's Department of Health took a while to get up to speed yesterday. It took a while before they had the numbers posted. But once they went up, it was kind of refreshing to see that number in the hospital continue to go down. After what we went through late July into August, after that, seeing the numbers drop at not necessarily the pace that they went up, but close to it, seeing the numbers drop like that is just, it's kind of reassuring to think that at the end of this month, we are going to have, whether or not the governor's going to make another decision as to whether or not he wants to extend the mask mandate. And I know I said this ad nauseum leading into the last decision, and, well, I guess it doesn't play a factor. But one of the things the governor's got to look at is who's really listening anymore. You can talk till you're blue in the face about how effective a mask is, and there's a percentage there. It's not 100%. It's not 0%. But the numbers back it up from the time the mask mandate went back into effect until now. Well, exactly 2 weeks after the mask mandate went into effect was when we hit our peak with hospitalizations. And since then, it's been tapering off at a level that is, like I said, reassuring. So when the governor makes a call at the end of October as to whether or not he wants to continue the mask mandate, among the gating criteria, one of the things that I don't think is going to get enough due attention is the effectiveness of it moving forward. And there's very few people, I shouldn't say very few, the number of people who are still participating in the mask mandate is significantly lower than it was 2 months ago. And one of the things you're going to have to ask yourself if you're the governor, or one of the things you should ask yourself if you're the governor is, and you've said repeatedly you're not going to enforce your way out of this, maybe call off the dogs a little sooner rather than later because there's going to be another surge. Maybe call off the dogs a little sooner rather than later just to remind Louisianans that when you do call for a mask mandate, it is very much warranted. You might have already missed that window, but better to do it at the end of this month than to extend it another month and have more people taper off. Because every time we go through this circle again, fewer and fewer people continue to participate. Anyway, we'll have more on that as the week wears on. Right now, though, I want to ask the question, and I've been asking it all morning, what really happened in Wuhan? Sharri Markson is the author of What Really Happened in Wuhan and joins us right now. Sharri, good morning. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. Great to be with you.
No, great to have you on here. I love the reporting that went into this book, and love that you've taken this on. Let's start with the basic. No, absolutely. Let's start with the basics of it. When COVID-19 first came out, we heard multiple stories from multiple different angles. Some of them sounded conspiratorial. Some of them sounded too dumb to be true. But through your research, you've taken a different tact here and talked to a lot of people who are, quote unquote, in the know. What put you on this path in the first place?
Look, I started reporting on this in around March, April last year, just as part of my everyday newspaper reporting, and I revealed that the intelligence agencies were examining the possibility of a lab leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But then when there was no credible investigation into this topic by the World Health Organization or any other body, I decided to investigate it myself, and I did that by speaking to whistleblowers in Wuhan, Chinese defectors who are now living in the West, scientists who are analyzing the virus, intelligence officials, and politicians. And as part of my investigation, I got extraordinary access. I interviewed the former President Trump, Secretary of State Pompeo, the head of the intelligence agencies, John Ratcliffe, the former head of MI6 in Britain, Sir Richard Dearlove, and the list goes on. So I really did undertake a big investigation to produce all the evidence that is possible about what happened in Wuhan, and that's what I've put in this book.
One of the things that I find most amazing about this is the lack of consensus here, and things get muddy and passionate and very impassioned and heated when talking about it. Was that your big takeaway from walking this path?
Well, I think that's probably the public perception. I think in the book I present a very clear narrative, facts, everything is backed up, interviews with people about the events that unfolded, and I uncover a lot of new evidence. But I think from the public's perspective, you know, scientists who were very conflicted, who'd been working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology for 15 years, people like Peter Daszak, and even funding that lab, they played a big role in telling the public from so early in 2020, before any inquiry had taken place. They were telling the public that it was a conspiracy to suggest a lab leak was possible and that this could only have been a natural origin. So we saw that narrative take hold, and that would have been very confusing for people when Joe Biden later came into office and in May this year said there should be an intelligence probe, and of course that probe found that both human contact with an infected animal and a lab leak are plausible explanations for how the virus started.
How do you get the horse back in the barn when it comes to scientists, I mean, reputable scientists labeled as simply conspiracy theorists? How do they get their rep back?
Well, you know, it's a problem now that the scientific community faces, because people listen to them, people trusted them for 2020, and how are they going to regain that trust when they said things like there is no evidence that this virus was genetically manipulated? That was something that confused me as I started investigating this, and it was only much later, interviewing other scientists, that I found out, well, actually, you can't always tell, and with modern techniques, you can't tell at all if a virus has been subject to genetic manipulation. And particularly, there was a technique that was developed by Ralph Baric called the no-seum technique. He was working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, including on gain-of-function research with the woman who's become known as Batwoman, Xi Zhengli. So, you know, you actually can't tell if a virus has been genetically manipulated or not. So it was a piece of wrong information. It was false for us to be told that this was definitely a natural virus.
Sharri Markson, author of What Really Happened in Wuhan, is our guest. Got a couple minutes left. How many roadblocks did you run into investigating this? This is something that a lot of people seem to have a lot of want to not have all this information out there.
You know what? I didn't. I was able to get access, amazing access.
Okay.
To politicians, to intelligence officials, to whistleblowers. I think the problem was that not many other people were investigating this. When I started writing the book, bear in mind, it was still treated as a conspiracy. So I think people were grateful that someone was taking this issue on seriously, and they were opening up their research materials, and they were really helping me. It was incredible.
How many hours went in on this? Because it feels overwhelming.
Oh, God. I feel my entire year has been swallowed up with this, hundreds and hundreds of hours. I was working on from about 4:35 in the morning to 11 or 12 at night. Very, very difficult project in terms of, you know, not just writing a book, but writing a 400-page book that drills deep into this issue and requires so many different interviews in different parts of the world. And kind of amazing, I just did it all from my home in Sydney, Australia, because like the rest of the world, we were kind of all in lockdown and we couldn't travel. We still can't leave the country in Australia. So it's amazing what you can investigate from your office, and it's something we never would have known before. As a journalist, normally you just hop on a plane, but it couldn't be that way.
Got two more for you, and I know you got to get out of here in about 90 seconds, so I want to squeeze these both in. The first one is, does knowing the origins of COVID-19 affect the way the pandemic is treated?
I think it's crucial to prevent the next pandemic, and I think if we got the early virus samples, it would, even now, it would still help with vaccine development. We still don't have the earliest cases of COVID-19.
And last one before I get you out of here, since you are in Australia, are y'all as locked down as the rest of the world makes it seem like you are? Because the stories we hear out of Australia are like total lockdown.
Oh my God, we are in total lockdown. I mean, you're not allowed your grandparents over at your house. You're not allowed anyone over at your house. But we've just reached 70% vaccination rate in New South Wales as of today. So hopefully from next week, our restaurants and our cafes and our retail will start to reopen. It's been a long time since anyone has seen each other, and I think those reunions with friends and family, we've been in lockdown since June. It's going to be emotional.
It's crazy. I can't even imagine. We had 90,000 people go to a football game in Baton Rouge last weekend, so the dichotomy there is just so far off. She is Sharri Markson, the author of What Really Happened in Wuhan. I highly recommend checking it out. Sharri, thank you so much for the time this morning.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Absolutely. Love having that on. I love having her on. She's the book is fantastic. I don't know that there's not as much consensus as I would have thought, but it's coming from a million different angles, right? She's talking to people not just in the U.S., not just in the Trump White House, not just Donald Trump himself, and not just the Biden administration as well after the fact, but her work covered so much ground from so many different places, you're not going to have consensus. I love the write-up, by the way. The write-up they sent over. The origins of COVID-19 are shrouded in mystery. Scientists and government officials insisted for a year and a half that the virus had a natural origin, ridiculing anyone who dared contradict this view. Tech giants swept the internet, censoring and silencing debate in the most extreme fashion, yet it's undeniable that a secretive facility in Wuhan was immersed in genetically manipulating bat coronaviruses and perilous experiments. I mean, this is the stuff of a Dan Brown novel. This is the stuff of a sci-fi movie come to life. And the more layers of the onion get peeled back, provided you want to give them credence. I mean, you can still, there's still a large chunk of people who have complete disbelief in anything coming out of a lab. But nonetheless, I recommend the book. All right, we got CBS News coming your way in just a minute. We've got our local news, traffic and weather coming your way. Then we're going to talk domestic violence with the district attorney's office after that. Before we hit the news, though, got to remind you, Talk 107.3 is giving you a chance to enjoy a true Louisiana staycation on us at either the Renaissance or Watermark Hotels. Take our staycation survey at talk1073.com, and you will be instantly registered for one of two staycations each month at the Watermark or Renaissance. We draw two winners a month, one on this show, one on the Jada Cody Show. It's a staycation with the Watermark and Renaissance at talk1073.com. All right. I don't know. I think 3, but 2 are going to have to share a mic, obviously. Yes. Yeah, they're out here. They're here now. Yeah, I'm going to. It was like an hour after I emailed you back that I realized who I was responding to. so come on in.
I have a phone downstairs, so it'll be quiet.
Okay.
So pretty much I thought I could just introduce them and then let them run with the whole show.
Sure.
Probably better.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, you are.
I could stand up, you could have slide the chairs around. Well, someone.
I'll stand.
No, we
So, well, yeah, I'm gonna stand over here, and hopefully we'll get us all in screen. We're gonna adjust the Zoom,
Okay.
but all good. We're on YouTube all the time. So,
That's why I work perfect.
like it.
So I don't have to.
I
say
put on
anything.
extra
I can just be
mascara.
normal.
I mean, how about that?
That works. That works. So, and when it comes to masks or no mask while you're talking, it's your comfort level, but I will assure you, you sound better without a mask.
Right.
If
It's-
you're cool with it, I take it
I'm
off.
totally cool with it.
Because I am not a mask person.
We have our governor issued mandates and everything, but
Right.
when there's actually something in writing that says when you're broadcasting, you don't have to wear them. So we cling to that.
Yes. Vaccinated. I haven't got the booster yet, but. Well, I mean,
Until they can show me the effectiveness of a booster and we're not just going through the motions so that we have busy work. That's me and Franz went over that earlier. It feels like busy work to me. Will I be that much more protected? I don't know, but it can't hurt. All right. So, what points are we going to want to cover?
I think we'll just I'll introduce them and let them know it's a domestic violence month, and introduce who they are, and then Melanie can talk about domestic violence and the Stop the Loss program,
Stop the loss.
and then introduce Renee can talk about the Family Justice Center. She's the executive director right down the street here, a couple of blocks away. She can talk about the work that they do there and kind of encourage people to come there, walk in, use the services, but the sites to go to.
Okay. Cool.
I think it'll take 20 minutes quickly.
All good.
Yeah.
And you probably want to start off with kind of the state of where we are.
Yeah, we could do that.
Oh, I'm starting there for sure.
Okay.
I'm starting. But I mean, that puts everything else on a tee,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
it does. It does. Have y'all talked about domestic violence on here before?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Just not this month.
Keep next weekend open. We have a tournament next
Holy
weekend.
Family?
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
LSU changed their start day.
I know I'm not gonna be there on Saturday. I'll have y'all Thursday night, and then I'm gonna hand off to Heather and Tommy for Saturday morning,
Okay.
and then hopefully I'll be back. Hopefully
Yeah.
make quick work, but I'm not like an 11 a.m. kickoff. I'm not gonna be done till close to 4.
Yeah.
And it's a real double elimination tournament, so it's not like we're playing all day long. If we lose 2 in a row,
Yeah.
and we've St. George right out the blocks,
Oh man.
but if we get St. George on Thursday, we're not losing them again. Sorry, 4th grade girls basketball. That's holy shit.
Brian's my daughter's back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
His daughter's fantastic. My daughter is improving.
Improving greatly.
Is she having fun?
She's having a
She
blast.
is
And that's
having
the
fun.
only thing
She
that
scored the
counts.
first game of the season. She scored before my daughter
Yeah.
scored.
So, I mean, that's the only score.
Thanks.
It made it to Facebook because that's pretty much the only score she's gonna get.
So has
Tommy's
she?
daughter got that.
Yes. Has she told you about our? Hey, kill the mics for a second.
Told Riot scored big points with my daughter this morning.
Because mom's
Big
Oh, great.
Mom's on your
points.
show.
Good.
That's nice.
See, my kids would be more impressed about the YouTube angle than
Well,
the radio
yeah.
angle. You know.
Real quick, I'm going to be running a post for this. Who's who?
Renee Craft, Family Justice Center.
What's your name?
Melanie Fields.
You need to write it down?
Oh, no, I have them. I had
Okay,
the names. I
okay.
just wanted to associate names to faces. Right, ready?
Yep.
good?
Get it closer to the mic.
837 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Every month we catch up with our district attorney. Every month we bring you on the air with Hiller Moore, who is in studio right now, along with Melanie Fields and Renee Kraft. We're talking domestic violence. Hiller, welcome back. How are you?
Glad to be here. Good to see you, Brian.
Glad to have you on this morning, although the headline that's got us going in the direction we're going is not the best. Baton Rouge breaks record for domestic violence murders. If we roll the clock back, and I'm not blaming COVID for anything in particular, but if we roll the clock back to the first lockdown, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul, sitting in that same chair, said, get ready for it, because there's going to be an uptick. More people at home, more people have fewer and fewer outlets, and we are going to see the results of this in a very negative manner when it comes to domestic violence. Lo and behold, a year and a half later, that's exactly what we've seen. 19 murders last year, or 25 of them this year with 3 months to go. Your office is overwhelmed.
Yes, it's a really bad problem. Now, if you recall, you mentioned the interview with the chief. Prior to that, in March, it was the chief, the sheriff, the DA, the mayor, all of the judges, all met together and told the community in March 2020 that we're getting ready to be shut down, and this is what we predict is going to happen. We don't want it to happen, but this is what we think. Please be wary of what's going to happen. And now we're here in 2021, and last year we had 19. Now we're at 25. Then go back to the year of 2017, after the flood of 2016. We had the same spike in domestic violence homicides at 14 that year. It's because of the same kind of phenomenon that was happening then is now happening now. And we've also caught some attention of the national media because of the year of the flood, what happened. And they were trying to judge what may happen across the nation by what happened in Baton Rouge in 2017, and unfortunately, it's happened.
And you don't want it to sound like an excuse on the front end, but it's legit. People lose their coping mechanisms. People have a higher level of stress. People are just forced into a place where they don't have their normal escape.
Right. So typically women are the ones that abuse. And also we talked last time about children. And that's another number that we can talk about. But typically women would normally go to work. They would go to school. They would be seen by others and family members. Now with the COVID during that time, they're not there. And so the 1,000 eyes that are normally on them no longer on them. And there's no one to really talk to or send a message to. Makes it really difficult. There's no lifelines out.
Which brings us to today's conversation and brings us to our guests in studio as well. You know what? I'm going to let you put this on a tee and hand off here because Melanie Fields is with us, as is Renee Kraft. Where do you want to start?
So Melanie Fields is the section chief, our domestic violence section. She's also the author or the architect of the Stop the Loss program, which we've created along with John Jay School of Criminal Justice and the National Network for Safe Community. It's modeled after the group violence intervention strategy, but they wanted to start a program, and they've chosen Baton Rouge to look at domestic violence homicides. How can we impact homicides? And we picked a bad year, I guess, to start, but here we are, and it's taken us 2 years, 3 years to get just the data up and running. It's been an extremely heavy lift. Melanie's done the bulk of the lifting, got great partners, and I'd like Melanie to describe the Stop the Loss program and how we'll move forward with that program.
And with that, Melanie Fields, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
Great, thank you. We're real excited about the Stop the Loss initiative because it is really one of a kind for the whole nation. Is kind of looking at us. It is a community-wide response to domestic and dating violence, being proactive, involving community service providers. All law enforcement agencies have come together and created a law enforcement group, working group, that communicates daily. Our office, State Probation and Parole, has even tasked 5 specific state parole and probation officers for our Stop the Loss initiative so that we can address, identify and intervene, identify domestic and dating violence, and offer services to intervene to prevent those murders.
What have we learned from the beginning of the program to today?
Well, the first thing, as Hiller said, was a real data analysis.
Yeah.
And when they did that in 2018, it was determined at that time a little bit more than 30% of all crime in East Baton Rouge Parish involved domestic and dating violence. It has increased this year, obviously. So that's the first thing we've learned. The next thing is what kinds of interventions work. We need to intervene and offer services for both the abuser and for the victim in order for them to go on and be healthy in either their relationship or future relationships.
What are your biggest hurdles here? Is it from getting cooperation from the one who's actually abused before it's too late, or
that is always a hurdle, but it's wrapped up in, and I know that Renee is going to talk about that specific thing because the Family Justice Center has really been designed to address those particular barriers and hurdles for victims.
Before we bring Renee in, I got one more follow-up, and that is because I'm a data-driven guy. Like, you give me numbers, and I'm all in. Do we have comps to where we are in Baton Rouge versus where other cities our size? Is it worse here than it is elsewhere, or are we just seeing something that mirrors what we're seeing nationwide?
I believe that we're seeing the same thing nationwide. In fact, the studies came out recently. So, yes, we're seeing that they also, one thing I wanted to add is, look, we have tremendous support by the Sheriff's Office and the Baton Rouge Police. This group of team that they have, they work daily, they meet weekly, and they go over every case of someone that's been arrested. So we're now building all of this data that we've never had for a long time, and we try to level A through D the defendants, the offenders that come in, and the level A is the person who the next encounter may be deadly. So we want to make sure we take care of that person versus someone who's a level D. Let's try to get them services because generally even an A through a D victim of that offender, they want to go back to that offender generally. They have children, they live together. It's a very complicated, complex situation.
I guess this is where the Family Justice Center would come in. So Renee Kraft, welcome aboard. Either one's fine. Let's go with this one here.
Okay.
So talk about level A through D here. One would assume that if you're on the lower end of that spectrum, you are in less danger. But does this sort of evaluation normally show a natural progression, or does it jump all over the? Like, can you be a level D one day and the next encounter is a level A, or does it move up slowly? That sort of thing.
Well, I think it just depends. Every case is different. I think they can address the levels. That's victims. That's more the perpetrators.
Okay.
We deal really more specifically with the victims. Survivors. We really like to focus on the word survivor.
Right.
Because we feel like that the people who have come, ladies, mainly women, have come through a domestic violence situation or are in the middle of it, really are surviving. And we really are providing a lot of different wraparound services. One of the things I have learned with this job and with a lot of different vulnerable populations is every single case is different. Not everybody needs emergency shelter. Everybody in a domestic violence situation needs emergency shelter, for example. Hiller mentioned the children. We are just bringing on the Children's Advocacy as one of our on-site partners as well, because a lot of those kiddos are exposed to domestic violence. And if they are, we want to be able to do the forensic interviews at our site as well. So we really are providing a wraparound service, a lot of different services under one roof for the survivors of domestic violence.
What level of services? I mean, not just shelter, but I mean, this would be a lot of all-encompassing. There's a lot of reasons that women, especially with children, choose to stay where they're at. How all-inclusive can you make this?
Well, we are trying to, of course, we have the law enforcement partners, and that's significant as we have the Sheriff's Office and the Baton Rouge Police Department on our site as well. But we also have a lot of attorneys with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. We encounter a lot of women who are in need of any kind of civil legal help from divorce, child support, eviction, anything that's going to stop them in addition to the domestic violence from moving forward and out of that situation. And the other thing that we're really excited to announce later on this month is we are just going to be offering some on-site survivor support groups. Because when people are walking in or calling us, they're dealing with whatever's right in front of them, whatever crisis is right in front of them right then. But a crisis to you and I may not be the same crisis to someone who's coming to see us, and they may need in addition to getting away from their abuser, some support to help them talk through that and figure out what the next services are. And one of the things that's really significant about the Family Justice Center is we are bringing together already existing really great services in this community. The nonprofit sector is full of really good providers, and we are just a convener for those.
You say every case is different. That's got to make it difficult to create a template to serve. Like, I mean, it just there's no. Can y'all have a blueprint or?
Well, We are working with the guidance from the district attorney's office also, but really from the National Family Justice Center. I'm really excited about the guidance they're giving us as well. So we are tailoring it to our community, but we do work with guidance from them. The Family Justice Center movement, and it is a movement, is about 20 years old.
Okay.
There's about 160 or so in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and maybe Australia. I can't remember for sure. We are the 6th one in Louisiana, so we are absolutely learning from some peer organizations who have gone before us and figured out what works and what doesn't work, and tailoring it to our needs in the capital area.
What are some of the biggest impediments y'all have? What are some of the biggest roadblocks y'all run into?
Awareness. We're new.
Yeah.
And the Family Justice Center name does not necessarily say come to us if you're in a domestic violence situation. So we are really trying to increase our awareness of what we do and who we can help.
When it comes to, when the rubber meets the road and you have someone who's been abused coming to you, what do you normally hear from them? Is it just a final, is it finally I'm crossing the threshold to actually come get help, or is it, do you still see objections within there even after they've met with you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Matter of fact, I've had one woman call me several times recently since we have helped her, and she is in need of financial assistance. So that goes beyond. We've already relocated her to a safe place, and but there are other obstacles that come up, and so we really need to do more than just deal with the immediate. We've got to provide the resources that they need right then and beyond. Because if we're just getting them out of the abusive situation, which is critical right in front of them, that's just that first step. We've got to be able to give them the tools they need after that as well.
We're going to dive back into the prosecution into this on the back end of the break. We got a break coming up here in just a second. We'll dive back into the prosecution into this and re-ask that escalation question as well when we come back in just a little bit. A couple more things we need to get into, though. Is how folks can help, how anybody listening can help, whether that be contributing financially or whatever the case might be. But also want to take a look at, are we going to start, we haven't seen a break in it yet, obviously, because we have a record number of murders this year. But what will it take for us to see that turning point? How will we know when we're at that turning point? We'll dive into all that and a little bit more after the break here in just a little bit. Hey, before we hit that break, got to remind you one more time, don't forget to download the all-new Talk 1073 mobile app presented by Gregory Ricks and Associates. You can listen live. You can listen on demand. You can even set an alarm to wake up with this show. The Talk 1073 mobile app presented by Gregory Ricks and Associates is available in your app store right now. Quick break for your money now. We're going to check traffic one more time when we come back from the break. We will continue with Melanie and Renee and District Attorney Hill and more next.
Cool.
Didn't mean to deflect that. I just
No.
stopped the losses there.
All good.
And we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
so we can start on escalation or not, and then maybe reluctance to go to a family justice center or cooperate. So those two, we can start with that, and then
And
go
just
to where you want to
mention
go.
that we're keeping those stats now to see what interventions are working and how
I'm gonna
the
let you. Yeah, I'll do that.
prosecution is gradual too.
So when I used to work at, I used to be a sales rep for a hotel here in town. Well, the hotel's actually fine now. But we had a deal where
Sure.
we had the completely anonymous deal with the, was it called the Women's Shelter?
It was at the time.
It's
but yeah.
Iris now, and they
Iris.
still have those deals.
Yeah.
They've changed some of the different hotels,
Does
but they
the-
absolutely have
Yeah,
that.
I vividly remember one time where we had a woman with her daughter was checked in, completely anonymous. She was up on the 4th floor, and the boyfriend comes rolling
Yeah.
in like an hour later.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a scene.
Well, and Hiller has worked with the hospitals. We have a hospital violence intervention program, and they also will admit these domestic violence victims under different names or aliases in order to prevent them from being found once they enter the hospital.
Yeah, it's and I mean, but the thing is, like, battered women's shelter, like that really punches you in the gut to hear how brutal it is like that, and like I wonder if awareness and just the level of like to hear Family Justice Center doesn't sound quite as violent, you know?
Yeah. Well, some of the family justice centers that have sort of revamped, one of them uses the Family Peace Center. They use the word peace in there. The word justice sort of throws people.
Yeah.
I'm learning that. But we're already. I mean, we could do a DBA, but I suppose, but we're already incorporated as a. But it's a thing. I mean, it's a real
It
thing.
is a thing, and it's
The other thing is
to
it's
see
a
it up
capital
close and personal
area, so we
changes.
serve 7 parishes.
Okay.
And so 8 parishes, so that's important, I think,
Yeah.
to put out there. It's
And I
not
can
just
talk a little
DBR.
bit. Well, I mean, about opening up in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, it's not. Won't have much time left.
Okay,
It's-
well.
Yeah, we'll
close.
have 4.5 minutes left.
Okay,
It's
well,
quick.
It's your show.
It's quick.
We'll do the
Yeah, but
progression.
we'll try to.
We'll do the progression, and then
Okay.
we'll dive back in if we can.
Well, I appreciate you letting us talk about this.
Absolutely.
I'm going to leave.
Push guard things. These were designed specifically at Melanie's request for police officers to give out at scenes,
off. Yeah, yeah.
tuck in their shirts. Same with victims can tuck it away and anyway.
Yeah, the discreet little. We had this when we were talking about when you're ready. What was when you're ready?
Opioids.
That's it.
Yeah.
Similar scenario, similar delivery method.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to I find the drop charges information is really interesting.
Yeah.
How many people come through and drop charges?
A lot.
They'll file a charge and then they'll come right behind and drop it. And
They
so
don't drop it, they
It's
request
requested, yeah.
okay.
And that's important.
Well,
Yeah.
that's district attorney,
lot.
not district attorney.
Right.
Jane Wood said we're doing great.
Jane.
And to make sure the contact info is given.
Yeah,
to
we're
the
gonna-
contact
I'll let-
There you go.
center.
There you go. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah. At the end. And it's right down the street on,
Yeah.
Yes.
1120 government.
right on the corner, cat corner here.
Yeah.
And all of this information will be when it's posted
Yep.
on demand
Great.
as well.
Good,
so.
good. If you can tag us on your Facebook, or we'll go in and get it as well. But
Okay.
yeah, we're
Oh no, you mentioned children's advocacy a little while ago.
It's coming up
Celebrity waiter
yeah.
next week or the week after.
next Thursday night.
Is it?
Oh, we don't have a game next Thursday night. Oh, the Fit tournament. Coach,
It's
I
gonna be done in the hour.
mean,
I'm one of the celebrity waiters, and
we could bring the team there to support
So
you.
is
You
your
know?
daughter, isn't she?
Yeah.
Tony would love that.
Hayden is a celebrity waiter, too.
really,
His daughter.
I haven't seen Hayden in forever. Not since we were doing Susan G. Komen again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's done this year.
What?
None this year.
No.
Baton Rouge is gone. They pulled Coleman from Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
But we're doing it with someone else. BRG Hospital or
Good.
forget.
Like the hospital stuff. That's
Good. I mean, the Komen name was nice and everything, but they had way too many. Having a board was just like you were a rubber stamp board. You didn't have any say on anything.
They had some bad politics nationwide too.
Yeah, they ran it well, and a lot of that, 90% of that wasn't true, but still,
Yeah.
you know, Mark Twain said a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on.
Brian, do you feel like you have a better understanding now of what the Family Justice Center does?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to cram it all in there. And we're new. We're
Yes.
new. We're new. We're new.
8:55 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. One more segment to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. And we've got a lot to jam into this segment, so I want to take this sequentially. Let's go back to the question about things ramping up when it comes to domestic violence. District Attorney Hiller Moore is with us, as well as Melanie Fields and Renee Kraft. Hiller, you talked about the different stages, that A through D, A being obviously the most pressing, the most severe, with it gradually moving down to D. Do things show up as a progression, or can it be all over the place?
Sure, your question was good about progression and then impediments to going to the Family Justice Center. So surely they can escalate. Melanie has done these year-end studies of homicide for the last several years. She has also shown that not only will they escalate, but it's generational. But it's generational not only by the abuser, but it's by the person being abused, the survivor, the victim. It's generational of families. So a young kid sees what he sees and becomes what he saw. And so we have seen that, but that's not the case in every case. Also, you've seen cases where people say this person just killed him. How come you didn't know about that? Well, if you don't report it, we never know it.
Yeah.
So if you're a family member or a loved one, make sure somebody gets reported so we know. So that's the case there. With regard to impediments, think about you're the victim. You live with this abuser. Family members live with you. You live in that neighborhood. Your kids go to school there. People say, why don't you just leave? That's stupid. I mean, think about, put yourself in her shoes. How can you really leave that situation when you're taking care of the children, you're bringing them to school, they go to school right around the corner, he pays your way, you have family members that are protecting everyone. It's tough for that person to walk in and say, he's a bad guy, I want help, get me out of here. It's very difficult to do.
Well, and so a lot of those same people that say, why don't you just leave, are the same ones that would turn back around after they do leave and they're looking for some kind of financial assistance from the government, and they'll say, well, why'd you leave? You had your gravy train there when you walked away from it. There's going to be a certain segment of the population that's never going to be happy with that. So, but I got to make sure we squeeze everything in here. So I want to move back to Renee real quick. How can folks help?
Well, they can become more aware of what we're doing. They can check out our website, cafjc.org. And we are always open for financial donations. And I will tell you, we are getting ready to, for the holidays coming up, we're getting ready to do a wish list drive because nearly every single survivor who comes into our center needs some sort of supplies. We have everything from diapers, wipes to toilet paper, and we need all those kind of supplies. We'll be putting that out on our website and pushing it out on our social media as well.
Very important to note that the CA in CAFJC stands for Capital Area. So this isn't just a Baton Rouge thing. You also service 7 parish areas, so Livingston, Ascension, and
West Feliciana.
Yep.
So yes, we open up. We are obviously focusing to begin on East Baton Rouge Parish. We opened up in the middle of the pandemic. So we were opening up and focusing on East Baton Rouge Parish because those were our local partners, but we are reaching out. We're working with Irish Domestic Violence Shelter, Franciscan University, working with some connections there in Livingston Parish, Ascension as well. So trying to reach all the parishes.
the phone number is 239-7880, 239-7880. Of course, the website, one more time, is cafjc.org. District Attorney Hilla Moore, Melanie Fields, Renee Kraft, thank you all so much for coming in today. I greatly appreciate it. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next. Don't forget, tomorrow we've got Crime Stoppers. Tomorrow we've got Our Lady of the Lake talking about their new cancer center and a few more surprises in store. Oh, plus Patty G. Let's get you to the Fox News Rundown right after CBS News.
Thank you.
All right, thanks,
so
Brian.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Figure out next week,
Right.
next month. Take care, man.
Yeah.
We'll figure out next month.
Yeah.
And I'll see you next Thursday.
So I may not see you till.
You will. I'll get it figured out. So if I've got to.
Physical presence.
If this is the same St. George team.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you